Yeah, he's there. Come on, man.
Yeah, they're all out of the way.
He lost his mind. He's always been getting you yelling at him.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, and the city clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Sorrell?
Here.
Assistant Mayor Hanson?
Here.
Councilor Grasso?
Here.
Councilor Farini?
Here.
Councilor Marchand?
Here.
Councilor Panalakis?
Here.
Councilor Hines?
Here.
Councilor Reynolds?
Here.
And Councilor Whitehouse.
Here.
I'm going to ask everyone to rise for a moment of silent prayer, and then Councilor Farini will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by God Bless America.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
How's John tonight?
First of all, under the Mayor's Awards, I'm going to give out the Portsmouth Middle School Boys and Girls Basketball Team Awards. And I'm going to ask the girls to come up first, and then why don't you stand in front, girls, so the people at home can see you, okay? So, John's going to read them, and I'm going to get them ready here. Hold on just 1 minute. Okay. All right, John.
Sure. You ready, Your Honor?
I'm all set.
Okay. First honoree tonight is Danielle Semprini.
You line right up here.
Next is Lee Cronin. Next is Haley Mahekpa. Sophie Kidrich. Martina Chandler. Hannah Leach. Chandrea Elder. Katie O'Malley. Ashley Frazier. And Paige Hardick. And the coaches, Kevin Semprini and Steve Cronin.
I'll put them all together so you can take them. All right? Thank you, dear. Let me just get them together, John. Can you put the pins on here? Yeah. Kevin, can I get you to take this and the pins and the other coach's little gift? Oh. Okay. All right. Very good. Is Coach Jack Callahan here for the boys' team?
We'll do it next time.
Are any of the boys here? We kind of got messed up on that. Okay, we'll do it next time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, girls. Good job. Now we're down to the presentation, the relocation of detached post office boxes from the Portsmouth Business Center. And we have the postmistress here tonight. Come right up. Pat Hersey.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Allen, City Manager Bohinko, and fellow council members up there. I'd like to introduce Kathleen Walker. She's from our Northeast area postal office, real estate office, and she'll explain what we're doing this evening. And then if you have any questions, you can ask myself or Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Very good.
Hi, I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and talk to you all a little bit about what's happening with the post office in Portsmouth. Back in February, we were evicted from our post office box unit at the Omni Mall. All those box holders were transferred into the downtown, and it was pretty crowded, I guess. Then recently, we were evicted from our Greenleaf Avenue site. That eviction is taking place. We have to be out of there by the end of July. So we developed what we call an emergency project to immediately look for an alternate site to replace both of those box units. We did not advertise because we needed to do it in such a hurry, and we have not completed our community contact procedure, which we would normally do. However, we have met with the mayor and the city manager, and now we're meeting with the council to just advise you about what's happening. We are in the process of moving to Heritage Street, moving all these boxes there. We have found a location. We did, and it's an extensive search as we could in the short time that we have. We're signing a lease at Heritage Street that can be terminated with 6 months' notice. So if there are any significant protests about this process, we certainly can listen to them. And we'd be willing to take under advisement anybody's concern about our move there. But if, in the meantime, we do need to move right away because we need to have a place for people to pick up their mail. So we're planning to build out that space and move in as soon as possible, hopefully before the lease expires at the end of July. And we haven't signed the lease yet, but we plan to probably do that this week. So I'd be glad to answer any questions about this process or any concerns that you might have.
Are there any questions of the councilors?
Whereabouts on Heritage?
Down where
It's in the storage center.
Ace Hardware.
70 Heritage Avenue.
Oh, where the Ace Hardware store and all that is?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions? Well, it's looking good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
It's not.
Now we're down to Judge John Marr, and he's going to speak to us for a few minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, City Manager Bohenko. My name is John Marr, and I come to you tonight probably with three hats on, certainly as a resident of the city of Portsmouth, also a former trustee of the trust funds back in the early 80s, and also as the administrative judge of the probate courts in New Hampshire. I have been interested in the trust funds of the city of Portsmouth for a long time, even before I became a trustee of the trust funds, because they're an extraordinary resource for our city. One only has to look at what goes on at Prescott Park and the wonderful renovations at Fort Tree Island, and to have lived here before those renovations to know what wonderful things can be done. And every year we marvel at what goes on at Prescott Park, and that's because of the proper investments of the trust funds. But I am concerned about the trust funds and the continued management of them and perhaps growth. having been a trustee, having worked with some excellent people in the past, knowing the current trustees, what I'm about to say is no indictment or diminution or derogation of the present trustees. They do an excellent job. But what I'm seeing in the court system is that it's becoming more and more a complex job to manage trust funds properly. I know that those appointments are a mayor appointment, and I've talked with Mayor Sorrell about this. And the reason why I come before you tonight is that I would like you to look at, or appoint a committee to look at the whole situation of the trust funds, not the current people. I want to emphasize that strongly because I think, again, and I'm sorry to be redundant, but I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. I think they do an excellent job. But because it's becoming more complex and a more sophisticated time, I believe that I would like to have you think about criteria for the appointment of trustees, to form a committee of lay people, council members, to see how the proper management of funds should be, how it can be improved. I see cash assets, securities, real property. It would be my hope that you would be selecting people that would be fluent in those areas so that you would get the best investment possible. I also look to our trust funds and think about, Bob probably could help me on this, but I think that the investment, the outside investment for the trust funds over the past 20 or 30 years has not been that great. And it would be, these were really funds that we inherited many, many years ago, which through proper management have grown. And I would be asking the city and the trustees to be looking at as to how they could encourage people such as myself who have lived here for the last 35 years, have loved the city of Portsmouth, how we could encourage people in the city of Portsmouth to think of the trust funds of the city of Portsmouth as they might think of the New Hampshire Charitable Fund or other foundations. So tonight, I just simply want to ask you to think about forming a committee to establish criteria for the selection of trustees, and also the general purpose of the trust and how we could improve that if possible. So I want to thank you very much, Madam Mayor, for allowing me these few minutes to talk to you and the members of the council. I hope that you'll think about that, and I'd be happy to be part of it. I can't probably sit on the committee because I don't want to recuse myself from any cases, but I certainly would be happy to perhaps suggest names of other people who might be in a position to assist you.
Thank you
Madam
very
Mayor.
much, Judge.
Right. Good night.
Good night now. Now we're down to the acceptance of the minutes for June 8th, 2004.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Now, I want to explain something to all of you that are sitting out there. We are down to the public comment session, which is 3 minutes. Now, if any of you sitting out there want to speak on the budget, you can do it under this public comment session. But your public hearing is strictly, and I mean strictly, because I will gavel you down, is parking meters. When you get up at that public hearing, it's regarding parking meters and to bring that revenues in. But you can't go off on Spanish classes, any part of the budget or anything like that. We've had our budget hearing, public hearing. So that's what I'm going to ask of you. And another thing is, if there is a large group of you here tonight for the public hearing, I'd like you to group together and just have one person say it. But come up to the podium with that person, and then I'll want you to state your name and your address for the city record. Okay? Very good. What did you say? Oh, okay. So don't get upset if your name isn't called, because a lot of these were parking meters, Nancy. Quite a few of them were. So we've started a new list, and I'm going to let you name them.
Okay.
What's the matter, Dawn?
Your Honor, I apologize, but I'm very confused. If one wishes to speak to the parking meter issue, I respect your decision to hold it strictly to the parking meters. Therefore, for those that did not sign up for public comment, part of their address or their comments about the parking meters can often encompass other issues which directly relate to the parking meter issues. So in keeping with your request, those that wish to speak, I think it's unfair, with all due respect, to have not signed up for the public comment and not be able to speak at the...
How many do I have that did not sign up, sitting out there, that want to speak to the budget? Dawn, come up and... Right.
You're the only one, Dawn. Eloquent.
Yes, come on up here.
No, not yet. You come up and sign up.
No, you just sign up. Come up here and sign up.
I got it.
Okay, and
Diane McGee, too.
Diane, you just come up and sign up.
No, I'll sign on.
Now, I'm going to be truthful with you. Your public comment session is only 30 minutes. So if we get a lot of speakers, I'll put you down to 1 minute.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules in reference to the public comment session relating to the 30 minutes.
Oh, all right.
Second.
Okay.
Well, why don't we finish this first?
Let's wait and see how many names we've got, Harold. Yes.
And you can speak again at the public hearing if you want to talk about
Right. But the way this is set up, Nancy, is it's strictly the meters under the public hearing, okay? And the fines. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Okay.
So we had a motion. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
You doing a video presentation? She's got this scripted.
I know.
Only Nancy can do.
Amelia, she already signed up.
Even then, I don't trust it.
Got two more?
This is good.
Troublemaker, John.
Budget?
You're right. You're right to speak.
No, now if it's parking meter, that's the public hearing.
Yeah, right.
Which is
right.
it? Then you don't
Okay.
sign up.
Then that'll come up under public hearing, okay? All right. Bill? Okay.
There you go.
That's it. I can't take any more.
Not anymore. We're to the limit. Yes, we're to the limit.
We're over the limit. We're at 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it about parking meters?
Yep.
Yeah, that's public hearing, Nicole.
And there's no limit there.
Yeah, strictly parking meters, revenues.
She's got unlimited time during the public
We're full.
Or do you want to speak on
Right,
meters?
right.
You want to speak in favor? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah.
If you can
but-
speak during that one, then there's no limit. No, and number of people or all that. Oh, you want to talk about...
Alec,
That's
no.
separate.
What do you want to talk
We're
about?
going to do things different tonight, okay? Well,
Hey, thank you.
You can probably do both if they have room on.
yeah.
I'm at
Right.
16. I have no more room.
She's at 16,
over the map
so she's
now.
at the, okay. Well, you can speak under both of them if you want.
Where were they at the public hearing?
You can speak.
And then you can come up during the meter. Okay, thank you. I'll have you call.
Well, now, wait a minute. What? I have made a motion and then seconded it.
I'm going to give them the 30.
You can tell, Kelly.
2 minutes. Okay. Harold,
Yes?
we have 17 people.
Yes?
And under the rules of your public comment session, it spells it out very plain. 3 minutes. What we will do tonight, if you will take your motion back, what we will do tonight, we will give each one 2 minutes.
Your Honor, I'd like to have this motion that's been made and seconded. I'd like to have the feelings of the council on this. We're extending the 30-minute issue, that's all, to allow everybody 3 minutes.
All right.
Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to know how many people are signed up before I...
17.
There are 17 individuals signed up
17.
for public comment.
For public comment, right.
So 3 goes into 17, how much?
51.
51 minutes. Okay.
Did you get a second on that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Will you say again what you want?
I move to suspend the rules in reference to the public comment session that gives the issue of 30 minutes.
To allow each speaker 3 minutes.
Are you ready for the vote, or is there a discussion?
I need to have that clarified. Is it going to be 3 minutes, or it's going
It'll
to
be 3 minutes, I'm
Your
over.
Honor,
as long as they want to talk, or what is it?
I'm seconding the motion. I believe Councilor Whitehouse needs to suspend the 30-minute limit on the public
right.
comment session to allow 3 minutes for each speaker, so that would be allowing 51 minutes.
Yes, right.
Your Honor, I would be in favor of allowing everyone to speak for 2 minutes. I think that most people can say what is pertinent in that length of time, because we do have a very long evening ahead of us.
And we've got a lot of public hearings. And if they're going to come up and bring the meter business into it, they shouldn't, because you're going to have your public hearing, and that's what it's all about, is the meters. But if you want to speak on the budget, remember now, we had our budget hearing, just like the school department and everyone. So I would prefer most of you to go with the meters, and people that want to talk about the budget, and I presume it's the school budget by the names, then we will give you, well, we've got to take a vote on it. But anyways, and like I told each one of you, that when we get to the meters, I know there's quite a group of you out there. If you could have one spokesman, and you all stand up behind him and give your name and your address, then it will go on record. But there isn't much you can say about meters. So, I mean, we just don't want this to go on forever. I'm going to put a time limit of 3 minutes on the meter hearing. I can do that being the mayor, I was told by the city attorney. We just can't get into half hour or an hour for one person to talk about one subject, which is needed. So I am going to cut the speakers down to 3 minutes, all right? Are we all ready for the vote? Do you want the...
Mayor, if I might just ask before the vote, if the motion fails, does that mean that your proposed 2 minutes per would be what the public comment speakers would be doing? So there'd be no, okay.
Does everybody
Honor,
understand?
if we're ready to deal with the motion, I would ask for a roll call.
Very good.
Okay.
Would you read the motion, Kelly, just
Certainly.
so everybody understands?
Move to suspend the rules to extend the public comment session beyond the 30-minute limit. Assistant Mayor Hanson,
Yes?
Councilor Grasso?
No.
Councilor Farini?
No.
Councilor Marchand?
No.
Councilor Panalakis?
Yes.
Councilor Hines?
No.
Councilor Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilor Whitehouse?
Yes.
Mayor Sorrell?
No.
5-4 fails.
All right. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So now we're into the public comment session, and as we call your names, please come up to the podium, and it's 2 minutes, please. Okay. We don't like to shut you off, but if you could see the agenda tonight, you know what we're talking about. It's very, very heavy one.
You want me to call the names?
Yes.
First speaker is Anthony Covello on boards and commissions.
Hello, councilors. My name is Anthony Coviello. I live at 341 Dennett Street. I submitted an application for a position on the Historic District Commission last week. Subsequently, I received a letter from the mayor stating that there are no openings, and more importantly, that current members are given priority for reappointment on these boards. I ask that you reconsider this policy of prioritizing sitting board or commission members and consider new applicants on equal footing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harold Wayne Ecker, City Business.
Mr. Ecker, 422 Banfield Road. I've been here since 1956, and I would think that maybe it would be nice if people that came up here said how long they've been in the city of Portsmouth. If they've lived here since 1900, which I don't believe, or since 1980 or whatever, it would be nice if that happened. Some time ago, you said at least three times, Mrs. Sorrell. I'm not trying to get down on you. Oh, by the way, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. At least three times you said there was nobody here, and there was nobody in this audience at all, just you people up there. Now, there's a lot of people here tonight. They came out, they took the time to be here. I think you should hear them. This 3-minute baloney is a bunch of popcorn. You people, when you ran for city council, you didn't go around and saying, I'm only going to spend a couple of minutes here. You dedicated yourself to this city, to stay here until these people had to say what they said. Don't you think so? All of you. You know, we're not in Iraq or Afghanistan. I was there years ago, a long time ago. I did my thing over there. I didn't like it, what I did. We're very privileged in this country to be free and to be able to do what we want to do. We really are. We don't have any kind of we have a democracy here. We don't have somebody that's going to tell us what to do or take me out and shoot me an hour after tonight, which is what happened over there and which what happens in this country over there yet. You know, you started your discussion about how many minutes you were going to let us have tonight at 7:10. Do you know that you passed the vote to do whatever you're going to do at 7:30? You wasted 20 minutes of my time. You know that? You think that's right?
Mr. Eckert, your time's up.
I know.
Martin Cameron, Budget.
Good evening, Martin Cameron, 469 Ocean Road. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. All I have to say on the budget for this year as proposed, it's fiscally irresponsible, and I attribute that to the city council, city manager, the department heads, the city. And I see that there's quite a crowd here tonight I don't think they feel that they have enough money. I see a lot crying here that they're not they weren't getting any money for the years past. I notice the increase here on the school budget is $2,425,000. That's a little over 9% increase. But you know, the taxpayers of the city, we thought we were going to get a break when we said we got that $4 million. We didn't have to send to Concord, because we're the ones that have been paying that money, $2 million, $3 million, and so forth, year in, year out. So, when it comes time to get a break, what do we got? We're getting the shaft out of this. And there's people coming in here wanting more money. They don't care about the taxpayer, and it appears that the city council doesn't care because you're trying to figure out some way to go ahead and put this together instead of being, but basically it's fiscally irresponsible. You designed the budget knowing that the legislature hadn't met yet, and you had full knowledge of all of that, and you know they're up to a lot of tricks in Concord. So I can't say that the blame is right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Jim Nevin, budget.
Jim Nevin, 187 Monroe Street Extension, Portsmouth. I'm used to coaching 9 to 14-year-old girls, so 2 minutes is about all the time I get with them anyway. Hey, 1985, I chose to come to Portsmouth, and the reason I did was based on the school system. Yes, it's a wonderful location, but as a parent, what I learned from my parents is schools have a lot to do, and that's one of the reasons why I picked Portsmouth. As far as the donor towns, I guess I deal best with analogies. With all due respect to donor towns, I feel that the people living there are like the people that buy a house near the railroad tracks that haven't been used for years, and then suddenly the railroad tracks are going to be used again, and they complain, that they're living next to a railroad track. I'm divorced. I work very, very hard. I work 3 jobs to keep my daughters in the Portsmouth school systems. I didn't have to pick up the next 2 jobs, but I did because the school systems here I find are excellent. I could have gone anywhere in Portsmouth. I chose I could have gone anywhere in New Hampshire. I chose Portsmouth. As far as the word donor, I'd like that. I'm a blood donor. I'd like that word to stay with blood donors, not donor towns. Thank you for your time. Got 15 seconds for someone else.
Thank you.
Mark Herholt's budget.
Madam Mayor, councilors, good evening. My name is Mark Herholtz. I live at 126 Martha Terrace. I'm also an employee of the city. I rise tonight to support the proposed budget that's been handed to you by the department heads. People live in Portsmouth because of services this city provides. We have a good fire department, a good police department, an excellent school system, a wonderful public works department, and those have to be funded. Fixed costs are what most of the increases are. Most of the departments had contracts to settle, and we've been behind the 8 ball for a long, long time. We came out, we're doing the best we can. We're going to be making, hopefully, strides to find the money that we need, but this budget has to be passed. Thank you very much.
Mark Stetner, who would like to speak on the letter from the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals.
Hello, Mark Stetner, 91 Fairview Avenue. I'm against this. I don't believe that a bed should be put downtown, and their basis for the protest that vegetarians make better lovers, I thought lions were pretty good, and they're carnivores. Thank you.
Susan Denenberg, Spanish in Schools.
That may be a little hard to follow, but I'll try it. My name's Susan Denenberg. I live at 44 Wybird Street. I was here last time advocating for a Spanish program in the schools. I told you I'd be back, so here I am. And I was brief last time, and I hope to be brief again. We're hoping that the budget will still have the Spanish program in it. I think it's very important that we advocate for our students, that we make sure that our students are going into middle school having some language background and not just the students coming from Greenland or from other parts like Newcastle. I don't want our kids to be shortchanged just because we're sending extra money to Concord. And I hope that everyone will consider that, and I hope that you'll look at the parking meter rates and raise them so that we have extra money in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donald Coker, budget.
Thank you. I'll dispense with the niceties. Thank you for allowing me to speak. This is a small town, and I look around and I see friends, acquaintances, some colleagues, and some adversaries on occasion. That's why it makes it difficult to take you to task, and I feel compelled to do so. I'm standing here as a downtown resident and a taxpayer. I'm standing here for something that I'm not supposed to talk about until the next one, but I will. However, the question is, how did we get to this point? You had a chance to give the beleaguered taxpayers a break. You could have even made it a symbolic gesture, but you didn't. You could have done it by saying only 5 or 6% raise in taxes. And by the way, a rose by any other name is still a raise in taxes. When you discovered that you didn't have to serve as a donor town anymore, you had a chance to give us all a break. But instead, what did you do? You acted like drunken sailors on shore leave, spending all your money. Councilor Whitehouse can explain what that means. I believe he's a Navy veteran. When we discovered, you made the decision before actually making the final figure known. You gave that $3 million to the city, back to the city. And when you discovered you actually had to pay another $1 million, what did you do? You turned back to the taxpayers for more. I once did a consulting project for the town of Exeter, and I asked George Olson, who I respect greatly, why would somebody want to work for the city? His answer was 15 years ago, because it's really a pretty good job. You get plenty of days off, plenty of benefits. The money's not the greatest. What's changed in 15 years? The money's a lot better than it used to be. I send a check for over $500 a month for a $7,500 deductible health insurance plan per person. So what does the city have to pay? Not a whole lot. We heard about laying off police officers, about laying off teachers, about laying off firefighters. How many administrators were going to be laid off? Not many. Thank you, Councilor. I will conclude by saying I will have more for the parking meters. Thank you.
Diane McGee, budget.
Good evening, Mayor Sorrell, City Councilors, City Manager Bohenko, Attorney Sullivan, and City Clerk Barnaby. My name is Diane O'Leary McGee. I reside at 303 O'Leary Place in Portsmouth. I am a native of the city of Portsmouth. I am a taxpayer in the city of Portsmouth. I'm a music teacher at Dondero School and an employee representative to the school board. I come here tonight to speak with great concern in my heart. I have sat as a representative of the Portsmouth School Board for the past 2 years and have witnessed firsthand the devastating cuts from last year. Even with this year's school budget, the school board will not make up any significant ground in the cuts of last year's budget. Any cuts to the school budget would be devastating, and I'm not sure that the school department would ever really recover. I urge you, as a taxpayer, a native, a school teacher, and a good citizen of the city of Portsmouth, do not touch the school budget. Thank you.
Nancy Clayburgh.
Good evening. Mayor Sorrell, City Manager John Bohenko, City Attorney Bob Sullivan, City Clerk Kelly Barnaby, and our city councilors. My name is Nancy Noveline Clayburgh, and I live at 405 FW Hartford Drive. I have the honor of being the president of the Parent Teacher Student Association at Portsmouth High School, and I am also the co-president of the Parent Advisory Council at Portsmouth Middle School. I am here tonight with the presidents of all the parent groups in our schools. We are here to strongly urge you to support the budget and the revenue enhancements so that our school budget will not suffer once again because of this horrible, despicable, unfair statewide property tax. Thank you.
Celia Jones.
Budget.
Good evening. My name is Amelia Jones, and I live at 139 Thornton Street, and I come as both a parent and a city employee. I have two boys in the system, school department. One still at New Franklin, and the other had a wonderful education there, and one who just spent 3 great years at the middle school and will be gone to the high school, and I teach at Dondero. And I just asked you to consider keeping the school budget intact. I live in the downtown area. I also believe in supporting local businesses, and I don't mind spending more for parking garage or for parking meters, so I say go for the revenue enhancement. And also, I just want you to know that I have spoken with people in my neighborhood who don't have children in the system who also believe that the school budget should stay intact. They're our future. If we don't give to our children now, who's going to be here sitting as you people do now? So thank you very much for your consideration.
Sprout, budget.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was to follow Nancy. I'm the co-chair. I live at 28 Orchard Court. I'm co-chair of the Little Harbor School Parent Teachers Association along with Kathy Como. As you know, small percentages of large numbers produce large outcomes. We're particularly concerned at Little Harbor because without the additional revenue that would be generated by the parking fee increase and the fine increase, a Little Harbor School would be hurt especially hard. With a proposed 0.5 or 1% budget, we would lose a teacher. We would lose the opportunity of hiring a teacher to cover known enrollment increases. We would have to defer again important maintenance on a wall in the school. We would have a net result of much larger classroom size and consequently significantly reduced opportunities for our youngsters to learn effectively. We urge you to adopt the revenue enhancement. Thank you.
Budget.
Is Kathy not here? Como?
Good evening. My name is Kathy Como, and as Tom said, I am the co-chair of the Parent Teacher Association at Little Harbor School, resident at 152 Osprey Drive. Last year, you'll recall, our school budget suffered a $1 million cut. Academically, we lost several teachers and a math and science coordinator in elementary schools. Without your support of increasing the parking meters and fees in the garage, we will cut once again this year. More teachers and quality programs will once again be eliminated. And what about next year? We will continue to chip away at the school budget year after year. That will be absolutely devastating to our kids. Please support the city manager's plan so that our children will continue to enjoy quality education to build strong leaders in our future. Thank you so much.
Linda Lennon, budget.
Good evening. My name is Melinda Linnane. I'm the Dondero School PTA president. I'm also a resident of Portsmouth. Live on 383 Ocean Road. I've lived here about 8 years. We all firmly believe that the slight increase in the parking, meter, and fine violations will not deter residents and tourists alike from visiting our downtown area. And the monies raised will ensure that our children continue to benefit from the fine educational system that we all are so proud of in the Portsmouth area. Please support this plan for the sake of our children. Thank you. And I'd like to ask who's here from the surrounding schools, the PTA. Everyone stand.
Nancy Lane, budget.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lane. I live at 44 Hillcrest Drive, and I'm the president of the New Franklin PTO. We are grateful at New Franklin for the wonderful addition to our school that was completed just a few years ago. Classrooms and a much-needed cafeteria were added so that our children could have the adequate space needed to receive a quality education. Please allow our schools to continue to offer the best programs for our kids. If the school budget is cut once again, our children and ultimately the city of Portsmouth will suffer.
Bill St. Laurent, budget.
Good evening, Mayor Sorrell, City Councilors. Bill St. Laurent, 253 Colonial Drive. I'm a little confused tonight because I came here for another issue, which I thought was connected with the budget, and I still think it is. But anyway, I, too, believe that a 9% increase in the budget, 8 or 9%, was unconscionable. That was too high. You had monies there that were pegged for the state. You turned around and you took it and used it within the city. 4% budget, well, I don't think we would have had this problem. But a 9%, 8 or 9% budget, I've got a lot of people that are complaining about this. You know, it's fine to have all these wonderful services and everything, but where does the money come from? And how long is this going to go on? How many years? Are we going to keep doing this year after year? I know that we held back a little bit, but I think the schools worked fine, and the police department worked fine, and the fire department worked fine. And the city services, they've all been there. But now, all of a sudden, 9%, I think it's unconscionable. I just feel that the council should take this back, should bring it down to 4%, and I think everybody, there's administrative, we don't have to cut teachers and firemen, there's administrative jobs that probably could go, but I still think this budget should be looked at again. I just feel that this wasn't looked at. I think the city manager came through, he gave you a budget, and I think it was your job to say, no, you can't do this. It's not his job, it's your job. And I think you fell down on the job. So that's how I feel, and I'll be here for the public hearing, too. Thank you.
Chris Cole, budget.
I'm Chris Cole. I live at 260 Broad Street here in the city. I came originally to speak in favor of raising the parking fees, and I still feel that way, and maybe I'll hang around. I've looked at the budget, and there are things in the budget such as aerial photography, $50,000. It's probably a very good thing for planning purposes. There are improvements to the city playgrounds, absolutely a good thing. I have children, I support that sort of thing. But a budget is a reflection of our priorities, every bit as much as it's a reflection of my priorities with my wife and the way we do business at home. The parking fee increase, the revenue enhancements, can't be separated from the budget. What they give us, what the parking fee initiative gives us, is latitude. The one thing we don't have, it's nobody's fault that we don't have it, it's not your fault, it may be the fault of Concord, but that's a fruitless discussion. What you're looking for is some latitude to get something done this year. I strongly believe that the parking fees will not be a disincentive to parking downtown. We can do business downtown as well. 50 cents or $1 to park is not going to make a difference, a material difference to the visitors to this beautiful city. While we can keep teachers, we can keep facilities, we can keep these services for everybody, whether they've been here for a year or a day or 50 years. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you all. That concludes the public comment session. Our city manager is going to give a short presentation here before we open up the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, what I'd like to do is have John Burke, the Director of Parking and Transportation, come forward, give basically about a 3-minute presentation so people all understand what the proposed adjustments in the parking meter and fines are. I've asked the acting finance director to pass out some sheets that actually delineate those revenues. So it's important for people to understand when they talk to the issue, if there's something they feel should be delineated from the proposed ordinance, they will understand what those impacts are financially. At this time, I would ask that John Burke speak to the issue and go over the various proposals that are in the ordinance. One thing that I would like to draw to your attention is that the City Council will not be acting on the proposal regarding the fees in the garage. Those will be acted by a separate resolution when the night, actually on the 28th, when the City Council discusses and acts on the budget. At this time, I'd like to have John Burke, Director of Parking and Transportation, explain what's in the ordinance and how it affects revenue. John?
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. At your June 3rd budget work session, the Council discussed several parking enhancement proposals in support of the fiscal year 05 city budget. City staff has had the opportunity to review the various alternatives suggested at the work session in support of the budget, and we have the following recommendations. One is to increase the parking meter rates from 50 cents to 75 cents per hour. At the slide that is shown, the Finance Department has projected that increase would result in a $325,000 annual revenue increase and 11 cents reduction to the tax rate. There was concern raised at the work session that on-street parking rates not be set so high as to deter visitors from our downtown. And we do not believe that because someone is now going to be putting a quarter in the meter and getting 20 minutes instead of 30 minutes, that we're going to see some wholesale decrease in visitation to the downtown. Parking studies have shown that on-street parking rates rarely will determine whether a person shops downtown or goes to a suburban location. Now, that being said, we wanted to make sure that these rates that are proposed are within an acceptable range of on-street meter rates found in similar New England communities. And at 75 cents an hour, we would have the same on-street meter rate as, say, a Burlington, Vermont, who is at 75 cents per hour. We would have lower rates than communities such as Newport, Rhode Island, seacoast communities such as Provincetown, Massachusetts, at $1 an hour, and for that matter, Durham, New Hampshire, who is at $1 an hour. So we would see that the rate would certainly not be outside the norm for a high-demand parking downtown small community New England. Second recommendation was parking meter enforcement hours being increased from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. This was not originally a staff recommendation, but a concept that resulted from the work session. The original concept was to extend meter hours to 9 p.m., as is done in many cities across the U.S., and here in New Hampshire, Manchester actually goes till 8 p.m. However, extending meter hours to 9 p.m., if you recall, was tried by the city in 1997 and was so unpopular with downtown merchants and residents that it was abruptly ended after just a month of trial. One of the contributing factors here in Portsmouth to why extended meter hours is more of a challenge for us than perhaps for some of these other communities that do it is that Portsmouth has the good fortune of having exceptionally strong parking demand through the evening hours. Not overnight necessarily, but through the evening hours. And we do have just the one parking facility. So a lot of these other communities that do the extended hours, especially till 9, may have multiple facilities. And their way of ensuring that those facilities that are quite costly are used is to do later enforcement hours. So we recommend at this time that if the council is interested in extending meter hours, we do it just till 7 p.m. This way, residents returning home from work can legally insert the 2-hour fee at 5 p.m. and park for the evening. The projected revenue increase for that alternative is $135,000 for the year, a 5% reduction of the tax rate. And that's using a 75 cent rate. The third alternative was regarding extending meter options to Sundays. We do not recommend that occur. Again, this is not a staff initiative. We do not see many communities, as opposed to the weekday extensions. We don't see many communities doing Sunday hours, and perhaps more importantly, there was an overwhelmingly negative reaction to this option from our own community. The projected revenue increase for that would be $135,000. Fourth alternative was to increase parking garage rates from 50 cents an hour to 75 cents per hour. This would not be an ordinance change as discussed, it would be a resolution change. We think it's certainly reasonable to consider a parking rate increase in the garage when you consider that it's been 7 years since we've adjusted that rate. And within those 7 years, not only have property values increased dramatically, but we have actually done a $4 million expansion of the garage. The concern we are hearing now from downtown merchants and business people is that all things being equal, They would like to see the garage rate set lower, perhaps than the on-street meter rate, to encourage people to not feed the meters and come in the garage, which is certainly a laudable objective and something that we here in Parking and Transportation also try to attain. We think that it can still be achieved with an increase in the rate in the parking garage, primarily by doing something else. If you increase it to 75 cents, you are also able to freeze the existing passes for namely residents and downtown employees. We have two passes. We have a night pass that's $50 a month. We have a daytime pass that's $80 a month. Certainly these pass rates could be frozen at current rates, and that would allow a deep discount, if you will, by increasing the hourly rate, and an incentive for people to come into the parking garage for the long term. At the same time, what we find at the parking garage is the shorter term parkers, the shoppers, the people who are dining out, the people who are going to the theater, would still be paying an hourly rate at 75 cents an hour. That would be considered low for these uses. Not a night goes by in the garage where our attendants don't hear from those types of folks at how reasonable our parking rates are. When you consider they're downtown, they spend the evening downtown, 4 or 5 hours in the downtown, and we charge them $2.50 when they go out. They're incredulous. They're very surprised when they hear those rates, and they pass those comments on to our attendants. We don't think that would change at 75 cents an hour for them. So again, the idea for the garage would be, if the increase goes ahead, to create the deep discount for employees and residents. Finally, and I should say again, that parking revenue increase is $400,000 projected annually, 14-cent reduction on the tax rate. The fifth alternative is the parking violations, to increase meter violations from $5 to $10 and increase time limit violations from $5 to $15. It was originally proposed that all $5 violations increase to $15. We felt that the meter expiration rate should be lower for the following two reasons. One, the meter violation rate is not as serious to the businesses, to their costs, as someone feeding meters and taking up space repeatedly. And secondly, a $15 expired meter rate, in our opinion, would result in a significantly higher number of administrative appeals for us in delinquent accounts. And most communities actually in New Hampshire have a lower expired meter rate than a time limit violation, including Nashua, Manchester, and Concord. The revenue projections, again, $270,000 annually for the meter violation increase and $60,000 for the time limit violation increase. Total revenue increase, $1,325,000. If you reduce, again, we're not recommending Sunday meter operations, that would be reduced to $1,190,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
At this time, Your Honor, I would turn it back to you to open it up for the public hearing.
All right, thank you, John.
Madam Mayor,
Right.
the motion needed to remove Sundays from this.
At the time when you act on it.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, now we're down to the public hearing, and it reads as such. Ordinance amending Chapter 7, Article 1, 4, and 9, Section 7, Period 102, Parking Meter Zone, Section 7, Period 105, Parking Section 7, Period 405, authorities given to regulate areas, and Section 7, Period 901, penalties, proposed adjustments to the parking meter rates and fines. And as I had stated before, I think 3 minutes will give you enough time to voice your opinion. If you do want to come up in a group, well, I would ask you to stand behind your group leader, because we need your names and your addresses for the record. So we'll open that up, and for first-time speakers, and name and address, please.
My name is Michael Clayborg, I am in the ninth grade at Portsmouth High School. I love my teachers. I love Portsmouth High School. Please don't cut my budget.
Mr. Rucker, 422 Banfield Road. I think the fines are okay. If you want to put the fines up, that's fine with me. I'll tell you a little story. Quite a few years ago, I did some work for Risa Construction on Market Street. We had to do the work there. There was a car parked there. There must have been at least 20 tickets in the back seat of that car or on the floor. Unpaid tickets, okay? Let's see. I like to go to Molly Malone's. I like to go to the library. We go to the Fairyland. At least I used to like to. I don't anymore. I don't go downtown anymore. Kittery has no parking meters. All up the coast of Maine, there's no parking meters in a lot of those towns. Some years ago, 25 years ago, I used to do my business at Standard Plumbing on Market Street, 100 Market Street. That's where I went to get my plumbing things, my this, that, and the other. They had a place in behind the building that was a little loading dock. You could get in there and you could park, or there was a little alleyway you could park there, or you could pick a parking meter. Well, this one unfortunate day, I took a parking meter. I put my money in there. I went in Standard Plumbing. I did my business. I came out. My sister-in-law worked at the clothing store across the street, the corner. So I says, okay, I'll go over there and I'll say hello to her. So I went over there and I said hello to her, and in the course of being in there, there was good rain gear in there and boots and so on and so forth. I spent $352 before I got out of there. Well, guess what was on my windshield when I got out of that store? It was a parking ticket. The old City Hall, there's a place in there that does cabinet work. My wife picked that young man to put the cabinets in her living room, her 2 bathrooms, and her kitchen, where she lives. She asked me one day, can you go down there and pay one of the payments? I says, fine, no problem. I think I drove 10 minutes trying to find a place to park. When I finally did get into the place, I asked the young man, well, he's got parking places out there. And I says, what's going on? There's no customers in here. He says, well, we have to park in them because other people will park in them. And he says, I was upset. There's quite a bit of money. And he said to me, he says, you wouldn't have got me. He says, I wouldn't have got you if you were doing business with me. I says, no, sorry, you would not have got me. I'm not going to go to work and give you that amount of money and run around looking for a parking space to give you money. I says, it's a bloody good thing that my wife is a good person, because she would go around and look for a parking place. And she would go behind the community center. And I think maybe you can't park behind across the street over there, where the gym is. I forget now. I've been there too long. But personally, I don't care if you want to raise the meters. I think you're making a mistake. I really think you're making a mistake. You're going to force people to the malls. I really do. But it's your thing. It's not going to hurt me, because I don't go downtown anymore. We don't go downtown. We don't visit any of those places downtown. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, Bill St. Laurent, 253 Colonial Drive. Most of this I agree with. The parking meter rates, 75 cents. The enforcement hours, I think we tried this before. We went to 9 o'clock one time, and that didn't work. I don't think the 7 really. I think we ought to keep it at 6, but I don't think that's a big issue. Meter enforcement days, Sunday good. I'm glad you're going to. That's ridiculous. I can't believe you'd charge to park downtown on a Sunday, especially people going to church. The parking garage is something that I would object to. I think by making it 75 cents on the street, you're forcing the people into the garage, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them off the streets into the garage. So I think that really should be looked at. And the violations, fine. That's. I think you ought to hold to that too. So you have some good points in here. But I think you're irresponsibly using this for the tax rate, and you shouldn't be doing that. I think what you ought to be doing is being responsible for the budget and not trying to find other ways to find money. This is fine, but don't use it as an excuse for the budget. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Joel Glenn Wixon, and I live at 151 Stark Street in Portsmouth. I was born, raised, and educated in the great state of New Hampshire, and I hope that, and I've only lived in Portsmouth for 3 years, hope that doesn't disqualify me from saying anything tonight. I hope that what I'm going to say actually leads some credence to what I'm going to say. I lived in Massachusetts for 15 years, and these parking rates are incredibly low. The last time I was in a parking garage for 4 hours, I paid $16. And coming from Massachusetts to spend time in Portsmouth, which we did often, these parking rates would have no impact on whether or not I would come to Portsmouth and park on the street or in the garage. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Councilors. My name is Nicole Pearl. I live at 24 Blue Heron Drive in Portsmouth. I've lived here for the past 10 years. I have 2 children in the Portsmouth school systems, and I've worked for the Portsmouth Police Department for 8 years. I am currently the president of the Portsmouth Police Civilian Employees Association. As a resident, a parent of school children, and as an employee of the police department, I'm really concerned about this fiscal crisis, just like everyone else. You have a few alternatives: raise taxes, raise revenues, or cut the city budget. Understandably, the raising taxes is not an option because of the taxpayers are already suffering from the statewide property tax. Along with the taxpayers, your municipal departments, including police, fire, school, and public works, have been shouldering some of this burden as well. I can personally tell you that the demands placed upon the police department have not diminished over the last 4 to 5 years.
You've got to speak to the issue of parking meters.
And it's right at the end. That's why
well, then
wasn't
move
sure
down to the end.
I'll go down to the end then. Sorry, that's why I didn't know if it was supposed to go before.
We have to really do that because we had
That's
a
okay.
big public hearing before.
I was just reading my paper. I didn't dare go without the paper.
All right.
Okay, so let me go down to the last paragraph. I'm here to support raising the parking fines and rates if it minimizes the impact on the budget. The rates haven't changed for 7 years, and they are probably the lowest rates in the entire seacoast. Increasing these rates would mean almost another $1 million in revenue. It would also mean saving jobs for city employees and lessening the impact on the schools. And as a resident, a parent, city employee, and as a representative for the PPCEA, I ask you to do the right thing for the city of Portsmouth, raise the parking rates and fines, and minimize the impact on the loyal people that have worked for you for many, many years. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, City Manager. My name is Michael Hughes. I live at 34 Elwyn Road. I'm working on my 25th year as a Portsmouth resident. I also am working on my 10th year serving the city in one fashion or another, 5 years on traffic and safety, and in my 5th year as being a fire commissioner, 2 years as the chairman of the fire commission. We've raised 2 children here in Portsmouth. We paid the taxes through the years just like everyone else, and I think it is absolutely time that we do raise that we raise the parking issues, raise the rates of that. They haven't been touched in 7 or 8 years, and I think it is a place to get some revenue for the city. I do support the city manager as well as the council in doing this. We need to maintain our city services the way they are. I can only speak to my department, but I can tell you that to maintain those services, we need to do this. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, Councilors, my name is Mark Herholtz. I live at 126 Martha Terrace. I rise in support of the raising of the parking rates and fines. This is a creative way to help us during trying times. You have fixed-based costs that you need to take care of, and this is a very creative way. I applaud you. Please push this forward. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is John Moulton. I live at 65 Griffin Road. I speak in favor of the increase in the parking fees and fines, and I paid my fair share of meters and also the tickets, and it's not going to change whether it's 50 cents or 75 cents. It's a creative way to increase revenue into the city and to stave off any doom and cutting of any of the budgets that everybody's worried about. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Sam Chase. I live at 604 Lincoln Ave. I brought my wife with me tonight. Her name's Lee. I lived here for 31 years. My parents moved here because it had good schools, good services, and they'd like to see them stay as well as I. If this is what it takes to get some other people to share the responsibility for these things that we need, then let's go ahead and do it. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Lisa Sweet. I live on Miller Avenue, and I'm here to speak in favor of the proposal as presented tonight. And I have a few people who also I am speaking on behalf of.
I'm Leslie Stevens. I live at 151 Park Street. I lived here for 17 years, and I have 3 children at Little Harbor, and I really want the parking fees raised so we don't cut our teachers.
Andrea Ardita, 171 Park Street. I've lived in Portsmouth for 10 years. I have 2 children and a third on the way, and I support this as well.
Lynn Kendall. I live at 946 Greenland Road. I have 2 children in the 2 children at New Franklin, and I support this also.
Roddy Cole, 260 Broad Street. I'm supporting this as well for my children and their future. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Santi Gray. I live at 251 South Street, and I have a child in the school system and 2 that will be coming up. I've lived here for 20 years.
Hi, I'm Heidi DePietro, 61 Jones Avenue. I've lived in Portsmouth for 12 years and have 2 children in the school system.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Katrupi. I live at 137 Wybird Street, and I've lived here for 13 years. I have 3 children, 2 in the system, and I support it as well.
Hi, I'm Ann Dentino, 2 children at Little Harbor. I live at 40 Walker Bungalow Road and support this as well.
Hi, I'm Karen Jacoby. I'm at 35 Wybird Street, and I'm speaking in favor of the increase in the parking meters also. Thank you.
Chris Cole, 260 Broad Street. I support this amendment as well.
Keller Maginot, 227 Marcy Street, and I'm in support of this as well. My son is at Little Harbor.
Kathy Como, 152 Osprey Drive. I have 2 children in Little Harbor School, and I support the parking fees increasing. Thank you.
I'm Susan Denenberg, 44 Wybird Street. I've lived here since 1985, and I support the proposal.
I'm Sally Struble. I live at 23 Friend Street with my son Jack, who's going into 1st grade at Little Harbor School, and I support the proposal as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Could you say it again?
Sally Struble.
Thank you.
Struble.
I'm Peter Harris. I live at 46 Manning Street with 3 children at Little Harbor School and support the meter increase.
Good evening. I'm Peter Henderson, 217 Broad Street. I've been a resident of Portsmouth for 11 years. I have 1 child in the school system, and I strongly support the proposal to increase the parking revenue.
I want to thank you all for coming up in the group. That made it very nice.
Yeah, so we support it, and I don't think there's a good or service that we can purchase in downtown Portsmouth that hasn't raised in 7 years, so we're okay with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Donald Coker, 80 Fleet Street. Good evening. Madam Mayor, Manager Bohinko, members of the City Council, Attorney Sullivan, thank you. I guess I'm going to be the bad guy. I don't support it. There's a group of people which really haven't been addressed here, and that's the downtown residents. I live downtown. I work downtown. I play downtown. I hang out downtown. That is my home. That's my backyard. It's my front yard. It's everything. I can't tell you which one of these proposals is good, bad, or otherwise. I can tell you as a downtown resident how it affects us. We get home, I'm lucky. I live in my office is in my home. But for those that don't have their office in their home, they get home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever. And if you extend the hours, they're going to have to pay. And they are going to get more tickets, I can assure you. That's part of the deal about living downtown, is you get on the phone, you get busy, you forget, the meter runs out, you got to move your car. It's not very pleasant. The hours being extended and the increase in the costs, I can't speak to the increase in the cost, but the hours extended is extraordinarily inconvenient for those of us that live there. And all of these people with kids in the school system, I came to Portsmouth in 1973, had 2 children, both products of the Portsmouth school system. I didn't have much of a trouble with the school system. Maybe things have changed. The parking meter enforcement on Sunday, that I think we would fight to the death on that one, but it's a moot point. The violations, you do as you please. We're going to get tickets as residents whether we like it or not. I'm standing here as a downtown resident and a taxpayer. The budget issue, why are we here? I won't beat that horse to death. My points, however, is I've heard a lot about do what other communities do. That's like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to say, Mommy, I want to go play on the railroad bridge. All the kids are doing it. And my mother would always say, well, if they jumped off the railroad bridge or play there, just because they do it, do you want to do it? I don't think what other communities do is relevant. It's what's for us, how we do what we do. And I believe that the residents of downtown Portsmouth will be hit unfairly by this. And I don't like being collateral damage. It's no fun. We pay enough already in parking tickets, no matter what we do. I haven't hit the $25 per ticket rate yet, but it's getting there. I'd hate to see what it would be afterwards. I'm opposed to the extending of the hours. I'm opposed to the raising of the rates. Thank you.
Mark Stedner, 91 Fairview Avenue. Mayor, with your permission, I'd just like to pass this out.
Give it right here to the city clerk, please. We'll take care of that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Mayor, if the parking meter rates need to be changed, and that's what appears to be going through, I think the current plan lacks creativity. It's not conducive to everybody, only a few people, and there could be a lot more to this. I just put this together in a couple of minutes today, and there's other ways to do it. Other communities have seasonal rates. I propose that it be raised to $1 an hour for just the street meters, May 1st to September 30th. Reduce the street meter back to 50 cents October 1st to April 30th. No parking fees on street meters December 15th to February 28th. That's shopping season. Help out the businesses. Get the people downtown. There shouldn't be a meter rate in the middle of January. Why? Keep the parking garage at 50 cents. Get the people in the garage. The locals will know all about it. Someone coming in from out of state, they see a meter, they're going to jump on the street. They're not even going to think about a parking garage. And when you work out these numbers just looking at 1 meter, and I'm against raising the hours too over what they are now. When you look at just 1 meter, this plan gives you more money than what you're proposing. You really need to seriously consider alternatives. There's no alternatives in the plan right now. So this is only just a thought, okay? If you're in a real crunch this year, do what you got to do for this year. But the long-term goal is something like this plan. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sorrell, councilors. My name is Steve Alley. I live at 401 State Street. I don't know how this turned into a battle between meters and schools. It almost seems as though it's some deliberate effort to divert attention from the real issues. As the manager of a small downtown commercial building, part of my job every year is to file a report with the city's assessor's office. This report includes information about the building tenants, the rents they pay, the building's income, and so on. The city uses this information in establishing the commercial building valuation and the tax assessments. Buildings with high income, high rents have higher assessments and pay higher taxes. Conversely, those with lower income, low rents have lower assessments, pay lower taxes. Business rents are not set arbitrarily. Common sense rules apply. Building owners seek higher rents, but the tenant businesses can only pay high rents when business is good. Otherwise, lower rents will prevail. Either way, high or low, these rents will affect the tax assessments for the buildings. The assessment concept effectively puts the business property owners in partnership with the city. Ideally, partners work together to promote their common interests. In this case, smart city policy would promote good business environment to maintain a healthy tax base for the benefit of all the citizens. Tonight, you're considering a proposal to raise the parking rates in our downtown. This couldn't possibly be seen as good for business. In my view, the higher rates would be a serious and costly mistake to our city, and like all mistakes, unnecessary. Here's why. The current 50 cents per hour rate brings an income well in excess of all costs associated with providing parking. Additionally, fines bring in a surprisingly large amount of additional money, and that's all on top. Under these circumstances, the proposed increase could be seen as exploitative. The current 50 cent per hour rate is not cheap. I disagree with those who think that it is. But it is fair and it's justifiable. That makes it good for business and good for the city. People can shop anywhere, and shoppers know that they can park for free in Newington, in Kittery, on the internet, at countless strip malls, and they can park for free in downtowns like Dover and Exeter. Tourists may or may not pay the higher rates for their infrequent visits during the tourist season. But businesses and the arts and cultural sites in downtown Portsmouth rely primarily on the far more important year-round, repeat local patrons. The proposed hike to 75 cents per hour with painful fines for tardiness is no way to attract increased tourist dollars and are certainly no way to treat our critically important local friends and repeat patrons. The proposed increase will mean fewer customers for our businesses, fewer second-floor offices will want to locate in the city, rental income for downtown buildings will be affected, and that in turn will damage the tax base.
We're just giving 3 minutes on this public hearing. Have you got very much more to say?
Maybe 1 minute max.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, he is a businessman downtown, so we will give him, I don't like the attitude I'm getting out there tonight. Steve, finish.
Thank you. The repercussions will be felt by the Portsmouth partners in tax assessment time. There are somewhere near 22,000 Portsmouth citizens who have a financial interest in this issue. There has been talk of the cost of city services to the downtown. Let's be frank. The fact is that the property tax revenue from the central business district is far greater than the cost of all city services provided. Most downtown business people are very happy to know that this very substantial surplus helps to provide for our quality schools, parks and recreation, and other good city services and programs. From what I've read in the local press, it is evident that not everyone understands the value of the downtown to our city, and many don't seem to understand just how high the stakes are. It should be known that a tract of land occupying less than 1/10 of the city's land mass, our central business district, the downtown, represents approximately 1/2 to 2/3 of the entire Portsmouth tax base. Think about that. It's well worth pondering just what Portsmouth's tax rate would be without a healthy downtown. In conclusion, in the best interest of the entire city, I strongly urge you to vote against the proposed parking rate increase. It would be hard for me to exaggerate the importance of your decision regarding what I feel is a very bad proposal with serious potential consequences. Weigh the short-term benefit to this year's tax rate against the longer-term costs of a damaged tax base. Please look beyond June 30th. It's late in the budget process, but it's never too late to do the right thing for the city. Please vote no, and I thank you.
Thank you, Steve. People out there, I don't know if you realize this, but at a public hearing, we have 3 times at the mic, okay? So we're just, at first time around, we have a second and a third time around.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Dodds. I'm the owner of Accent Magazine and Graphic Details, both located at number 110 State Street in downtown Portsmouth. First of all, I would like to say I wholeheartedly agree with all the statements the previous gentleman just made. I will try to expand upon a couple different things, but if you could have me on record as being in agreement with his statements and his points, which were very well thought out and researched. If I had to pick my battles, I am against all increases in meter rates, hours, fines, etc. If I did have to pick my battles, I am most opposed to the meter rates, the meters continuing into the evening hours, and the fees for the parking on Sundays. The other points are that no matter what happens tonight, I do believe that the City of Portsmouth has a very, very large public relations problem that is not being addressed. In my business, especially with the magazine, I talk to approximately 100 different business owners each time we do the magazine, which is a bi-monthly. Some of those business owners are downtown merchants. Many of those business owners are owners of businesses in other areas. When they come to downtown Portsmouth to do business with me or other people in the business community, they find that they are ticketed the moment their meter goes over the 2-hour mark. The meter maids many times on State Street outnumber the patrons visiting the shops. The meter maids, I guess we would, and the gentlemen meter maids, if that's what you call them, I guess we would, as downtown business owners, feel better about them and about the tickets they put on our cars when we do go over the time period if they were at least educated in the locations of various things downtown. I find that there's a very large PR problem in that they are very quick to ticket. As I said, there's many of them in number to the amount of patrons. I challenge you to consider possibly reducing the number of the meter maid staff to also reduce this budget. My last comment is, as an employer, and I employ 7 at the moment, one thing not being addressed here tonight is that you have also, the city parking department has also taken away some of the free parking on the outskirts of town. Namely Hancock Street, which used to be all-day free parking, is now 2-hour parking. There are now meters on Washington Street. I know that doesn't exactly talk to the task at hand tonight, but I'm addressing it as part of the larger issue tonight, in that what that is doing is driving employees of downtown businesses to go into the neighborhoods. And your next hearing is going to be all these same homeowners from Lincoln and Wybird and all the other adjacent downtown streets complaining because people are going into the neighborhoods in search of parking long term. So count me as opposed and most opposed to the Sunday parking meters and the evening parking meters. Thank you very much.
We're still at first time around. When we get to second time around, it'll be the old speakers. Come right up if you're first time around. Get lined up there. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name is Mike De La Cruz. I live at 64 Austin Street. I live downtown and work downtown and own commercial real estate downtown. I've been here for quite a while, and what Steve and Cindy said there, I would like to also say that is also my experience of what I see downtown. I understand that the city is in a particular jam at this point, and they have to do something. As a commercial real estate owner, I have to balance a lot of factors with what the retailers would like, the customers would like, and what the office tenants would like. What I would say from my professional opinion is, if you went ahead with raising the parking rates, it will obviously have some impact. Ways to minimize that impact, I think, would be if the monthly parking meter, the monthly garage rates are not raised. That way, the office tenants don't go up in arms and feel that they have to go to Pease or something instead of working downtown. In terms of raising the parking rates and parking fees, I agree that the rates are relatively low, and it's an enhancement to come downtown rather than to go to the malls. I think that you should proceed with caution and really, really think out very, very deeply what you're going to do, because it's a little town. Portsmouth still isn't a big city, and the little things that we do are what makes Portsmouth. For example, the $5 we pay for a parking ticket, every time I get it, I say, oh my God, thank God I live in Portsmouth. I get a lot of parking tickets. But those are the type of things that people, they say, I'm really glad I live here. I pay a $5 parking ticket or a $10 parking ticket. But if that was a $15 or a $20 parking ticket, people might begin to change their mind. So anyway, I wanted to leave you with that I don't wholeheartedly support the proposition, but I understand that you have to do something. And from my point of view, one way to balance the pain that you have to incur would be to hold the monthly parking pass fee currently where they are. Thank you.
Jim Nevins, still 187 Monroe Street Extension. That was put up there. My apologies, whoever did it obviously spent some time on it. The gentleman, I don't know if he's still here, that gave you his seasonal and stuff. I did look at it, and I'd like you to stay with this, or consider staying with this, but especially after listening to some of the retailers, I know it's not everything they want. Thank you. But month of December, he's got no parking fees on street meters December 15th through February 28th. I don't know how he came up with February 28th on Saturdays and Sundays, but either reduced or a minimal during the holiday season. I'm for that. Go retailers. Thank you.
Sir, we do have a shut-off at Christmas time. We give them 2 weeks.
Good evening, Paul Sorley. I live at 60 Market Street, and I'm the chair of the Downtown Business Association. Just a little humor. We probably should give Whitey a minute to defend himself as a drunken sailor.
I'm Natalie Hassold, resident and business owner in downtown Portsmouth. Paul and I and the rest of us are here on behalf of the Downtown Business Association, of which Paul is our chairman.
Could I get the rest of them just to come forward and give their names?
I think they might actually
want. Are they going to be speaking?
They're going to do that.
Okay.
They will be.
Very good.
Right. We realize that we cannot always speak for every business owner in the city, but after several DBA meetings, there was strong consensus on several points regarding the increased parking fees. We are in agreement that in order to make up for the last-minute budget shortfalls, that concessions must come from the community as a whole and not one particular section of the city. Ironically, it feels as if the downtown business community is being asked to be the donor neighborhood to make up for last-minute shortfalls in the budget. We cannot stress enough how much the downtown already contributes to the city budget through property taxes, kickbacks from the rooms and meal tax, and existing parking fees and fines. From our viewpoint, the proposed increase in parking fees offers nothing positive to the business community, and in essence adds an additional tax on those who choose to shop, eat, and stay in the hotels and inns downtown, potentially driving them to the outlying malls and other restaurants and overnight facilities that do offer free parking. When the Downtown Business Association was asked what they could and could not live with in regards to parking fees and fines, the group had a good consensus with what would be acceptable for this year and also asked for a sunset clause to reevaluate next spring. And I'll go through the points as we've been hearing them. We would prefer no additional or extended hours on meters Monday through Saturday. And we do applaud you for removing the addition of Sunday hours, as our group, as you can imagine, was unanimously opposed to that, what they felt was an unconscionable change. We would accept increases in the expired meter violation from $5 to $10, and time limit violation increase from 5 to 15. We would hope that we could institute a forgiveness ticket. We realize that it may not be able to be done in this year's budget, but we would like to express the group's support for this program, and we feel that that would go a long way in improving public relations regarding the city. We could see increasing the meters on the street to 75 cents per hour and leaving the garage fee at 50 cents an hour. Market the garage as a great value for long-term parking and increased turnover on the street. Current lease rates should be maintained to provide a deeper discount and incentive for downtown employees and residents. This all encourages people to park in the garage for significant savings, and again also opens up the street parking.
Ms. Castle, it's 3 minutes.
One tiny point.
We've got two more times to get up and speak.
Okay, one issue, the validation.
Okay.
Okay. The cost of the validation program to businesses must remain at the current rate. Continued success and growth of this relatively new program depends on the cost to businesses not being increased. To date, there are 40 businesses helping offset the cost of parking for their patrons, and I think that's very significant in the short time it's been in place. Again, we urge you to consider these proposals and our needs, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lee Burns, and together with my wife, Judith, we own and operate Celtic Crossing, 112 Congress Street. I'd like to begin parenthetically and very proudly by, as a point of information, telling you that in a time frame that we consider a previous life, my wife and I were privileged to represent the teaching profession. We were teachers for a combined number of years of 44 years, covering education from elementary through the college level. And we understand and empathize with those here on the part of education. I just want to expand briefly on two things that were said, one by a previous gentleman who had his own creative seasonal proposal, and zeroing in on the word creative, I think that we need to have something positive. You just heard Natalie say there's nothing in the current proposal that is really positive. We need to have something that's positive to give the people who shop downtown an opportunity to say, well, you know, I don't have to park on the street. I can park in the garage if the garage fee is like it is now, 50 cents. Plus the fact, no one has mentioned this evening, that many of us downtown, many of the downtown businesses now offer parking validation. We buy stickers for 90% of their value, and we give them to customers to encourage them not only to shop in downtown Portsmouth, but also to park in the parking garage. And in order to maintain that, and in order to develop it further by having more businesses be in the parking validation idea, we need to keep it the same. If it's the same as parking on the street, everybody's going to want to park on the street. And I'd like to just offer one other observation. A couple of months ago at a DBA meeting, Mr. Burke made a statement that struck me as being very, very true, and it's a statement with which I agree strongly, and that is that the malls on the periphery market what they do. They market free parking. They don't bother to tell you that you may have to walk from your car a total of 3 or 4 city blocks to get into the mall, and then another few city blocks to get to the store that you're intending to visit. We need to market the fact that you can park in that garage for 50 cents. You can take your sticker to any number of businesses in downtown Portsmouth and get that ticket validated so that, in effect, you have, if not free parking, then very, very low-cost parking. Finally, one other thing. If you raise that parking garage fee, it's going to cause, I think, some of the businesses to reassess their parking validation commitment. If they have to have, I think it would probably affect restaurants most of all, but if they find
Sir,
that that's
I'm going to have to ask you to come up at the second hearing, the second time around, okay?
That won't be necessary. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Peter Eggleston. I'm the owner of the Portsmouth Brewery on Market Street in downtown Portsmouth. A lot has been said about this proposal already, and I don't want to plow over the same ground. I do want to add, though, that I'm a former teacher myself. I taught high school in New York City for a number of years, so I do, like many others, find it curious that this whole discussion has somehow evolved into a debate of parking meter rates versus schools. I think that's a little peculiar, and I hope we can kind of move aside. I like some of the suggestions that have come up earlier about approaching this in a more creative way. I do want to give a little bit of background, though. When we came to town to open the Portsmouth Brewery about 14 years ago, at the time, people in town were very discouraged. The Air Force Base had just been decommissioned. The real estate market had the bottom had fallen out of it. And people told us, as outsiders coming in, that we were foolish coming in and investing in downtown Portsmouth, that its time had passed. There really was nothing to look forward to here. We didn't know any better, so we came in anyway, and things have done pretty well for us. I employ over 70 people. I have over $1 million in payroll a year. I pay over $20,000 a year in property tax. About $250,000. $250,000 in rooms and meals tax goes to Concord. How much of that comes back here to the city? Needless to say, we put a lot into the pot, and I kind of feel like at times I feel like there's this invisible hand closing down around my throat. After Senate Bill 110 passed last year, I learned that my insurance rates, my health insurance rates, were going to go up 80% on renewal. There are going to be a lot of my employees who are not going to get the same benefits this year that they got last year because of that. My food costs have gone up because of everything else that has nothing to do with this discussion now. However, I just need to let everybody know, and I'm a little surprised it hasn't come up yet, that old expression about killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. I think Steve Alley was referring to that when he was talking about how much the downtown business district contributes to the city compared to what it takes out in terms of services. I want to talk about a number of things specifically, though, with respect to this parking proposal. Whether or not the rates are appropriate for the meters or the garage is a discussion that I think should take place on its own merit, not as a quick fix for a short-term budget shortfall. This is a long-term, permanent revenue change that is being applied to plug a gap, and I think that is poor fiscal policy.
Peter, you'll have to stay for the second time around to finish. All right, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, well, I will do that.
We've got two more.
Thank you.
Second and third time.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I came to Portsmouth in 1934. So I've been around a little while. Stuart Chains, Congress Street, Portsmouth. I'll even relinquish 30 seconds of my time for the council to take a stretch. But it's regrettable that this conference of time has been used on an issue that should not be at this particular time, namely Parking meter revenue increases have literally nothing to do at this moment, and I think the answer about a quick fix may be well taken. However, I'm going to speak in the art of compromise. Yes, we all know that something has to be done, and the city should and will make the decision. However, we're offering, as members of the business community, which pays over 60% of the tax base of the city, to pay our fair share. We're not going to shirk. We will gladly pay whatever is necessary, and so will our customers pay. However, we want to retain the quality of services that you've already arranged. The fact that the budget has been substantially increased this year because of what was led us to believe that we could make up for previous scare years, I think was a wonderful idea. For members of certain departments to have to re-give some of that increase that they had hopefully planned on is not impossible, nor is it wrong to suggest it. Now that all the possible data has been arranged and exposed to the council, I think it's necessary for you folks to deliberate, in your wisdom, of what's going to work as total package in the art of compromise. It's regrettable that this action has to come at this time, and we're willing to stand by you. At the same time, we want you to stand by us. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. We're still at first-time speakers.
Mayor Sorrell and councilors, thank you for this opportunity. I am Dan Colville, owner of Strawberry Bazaar on Market Street. It's my understanding parking meters were put in many years ago as a necessary nuisance to the downtown. And since its inception, I understand that for years it was always a principle that parking meters had to pay their way. They had to pay for all the administration, they had to pay for all additional places that, to park and things like that. But never had it been used as a fundraiser to reduce the budget or to pay donor fees or things like that. I think it's a dangerous way to begin this talk on the subject. It really doesn't hold, it's not the proper place for this discussion. I'd also like to point out that the customers and the tourists who are asked to pay this fee did not create the problems that we have. I think if there aren't ways to cut costs in different ways and we have to pay higher property taxes, the downtown business is going to do their share and pay their amount as they always have. A little different than the selection of towns that John Burke had. I thought if you look at local towns instead of some of those tourist areas that he had, if you look at Newburyport, Exeter, and Portland, Newburyport and Exeter don't charge at all, and Portland has 50 cents for every hour, and they forgive 2 tickets every year. So I'm just asking that you not approve these increases and that you don't make the image that to come and visit the city or the open door, you must pay more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Good evening, Bob Hassel, 15 Mount Vernon Street, and also a store owner downtown. I do not have any children in the school system, nor do I have grandchildren. However, I do support raising the meter rates and also the fines. However, I would ask you to please remember that we would like to see for next year, I know you can't do it this year because of the budget, a forgiveness ticket, which is definitely the way to go. I have in front of me here a forgiveness ticket that is from Portland. It's green. It says you may not have to pay this. It says the city of Portland values your visit, just like Portsmouth should say.
The city encourages you to make use of our many conveniently located parking garages and lots on your next visit. For your convenience, we have attached a downtown Portland city map indicating the location of the area's parking facilities. That is a very positive way to treat people coming into the city. You don't understand when you have a store downtown, how people come into the store and are jittery as hell, if you pardon the language, about, oh my God, my tickets, I'm going to get a ticket. And they have to rush out of the store, and they do put money into it again to keep from getting a ticket. And I hate to see the school system, the parents of school children being pitted against the downtown merchants. I understand their concerns, and I really feel that we need to do something about it for this year, but this should not be something that should take place every year to see how can we fill the shortfalls of the budget by putting it into the downtown merchants' meters that we so want to have people come in and visit our stores. So please consider, I approve this meter adjustment that you're making this year, but please consider doing something for the people who come into town with a forgiveness ticket the next year. It goes a long way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
I'd just like to follow up with a couple of comments. It is June 21st, the longest day of the year, and we're beginning the tourism season. So the demand for parking is greater, and we're having that conversation why there's a greater demand. I would like you to remember that in January, February, March, and April, when business isn't so great, that we downtown work very hard to get people into the city. So just keep that as a perspective as we hold this conversation. The other comment that I had was that there seems to be a value added for the convenience of parking on street. So when you look at the meter rates and you look at the parking garage, please take into consideration that we are really looking to drive turnover for our customers, for our stores, and that if you're going to raise the rates, it's best on street because of the added value, and to leave a place for people who are looking to pay 50 cents an hour to put them in the garage, give them long-term parking, and give us the turnover on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. The next speaker, your first time, right?
I stood up behind Lisa Sweet, but I have some comments that I'd like to make myself that are separate from Lisa.
How we would have to do this would be when I get the second time around, and I am there. We are to second time around. Do we have any other speakers come forward? Go right ahead.
I wasn't going to say anything personally, but I'm feeling compelled to respond to this gentleman who owns the brewery, whose name I'm forgetting. Peter?
And your name again?
Sally Struble.
Thank you.
23 Friend Street. I just wanted to respond to a couple comments he made. One, that the business owners are the ones putting so much into the pot. We all put into the pot, sir. Every single property owner in the city. All of these people who are here are paying to make this place run, not just the downtown business owners. The rates in this town are so incredibly low. It's incredible how low they are. And I think the comparison that needs to be made in deciding what to do is not comparing them to what they currently are, but what's going on in other towns and other cities that are approximately the same size, the same type of tourist entity that we have in Portsmouth, not the 50 cents that we have going on right now. It's like ridiculously low. The last thing I wanted to say has to do with his comment about killing the proverbial goose that laid the golden egg. That would not be the downtown business owners. That would be the children of Portsmouth.
Second time around, come up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Donald Coker, again, 80 Fleet Street. Just a couple of things. If you feel compelled to raise the rates, I would urge you to consider all of the input from the business owners and also from the downtown residents. if you raise the rates, please, please don't extend the hours. It would be a good thing to have some sort of a token. I don't know if our meters are electronically capable of handling a token, similar to the principle of buying tokens at the toll gates in New Hampshire, a discounted rate that people could buy, and it could be for downtown residents. If you do that, I can assure you it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Come right up, sir.
Mark Stedner, 91 Fairview, if you didn't get that the second time too. I seem to be getting a lot of positive feedback from the audience and the people on my plan. It has a lot of merit to it. It seems to make the people who worry about the budget happy because it generates money for them, and it's not as hard on the business owners. And I'm going to ask you, council members, to take a look at this and ask somebody to just do a little bit of an analysis. A lot of towns around here have seasonal rates. And remember, if you guys make it 75 cents now, how quickly does it become $1 across the board? Across the board is not the solution. The permanent solution is right in my hand, or in some fashion of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Come right up, sir.
Thank you. Sorry for the informality, Mayor. I was home watching this, and I just couldn't stand it anymore.
Your name,
Couldn't handle
sir?
it. It was either coming down here.
Could we have your name and address?
I'm sorry, Joshua DeMarco, 58 Pearson Street. Was either throwing something at the TV or coming out here. We're not charging enough for parking. I've sat there and listened to the business people. All of you bend over backward to help these. They're not the only ones in the city. Because they have a business doesn't mean that they own the city. We're not charging enough. We never have. Any city like Portsmouth that people want to come to will pay for it. For a business owner to stand in front of this august body and say, you're going to drive customers away is absolutely outrageous. It's outrageous. We plow them out. We clean their streets. We do everything that we have to do to assist them. And once we turn around and ask for an adjustment in the rates of parking, we're not paying enough. It should be $2. You think people are going to stop coming to Portsmouth because it's a $2 charge? In Boston, you can't even sneeze for that. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. You got to do something here. You got to use some common sense. And the common sense is this. People will come to Portsmouth not because of businesses, but because of the city. And that's all of us. All of us contribute to the beauty, all the spots that we have when we plant. You know, those little vignettes that people come out of nowhere and plant and clean up. Does business do it? No. They have their own spots, but people like myself go out there to beautify the city. We deserve better. And it's not business against the homeowners. It's the city to attract other people. And I advise you, or I would suggest, that you are not asking enough for parking downtown, period. That you should go to the max. People don't want to park, they'll find some other place. If they love this city, they'll park in Newbury Street or Newburyport and have and take the subway up, the subway. It's my Boston route, sorry. They'll take the bus up here. And you know that's not the point. Everybody here represents the city. All of you represent the city. It is not only the business section. And they've gotten more from this city than I have, and I'm a homeowner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, councilors, again, my name is Mark Harehouse. I live at 126 Market Terrace. Again, I rise to congratulate you on some creativity. The voters asked for different ways to help with the budget. The voters asked for different creative ideas to get the burden off of the taxpayers. You've delivered. This is a creative way. Other people have come up with adjustments on it. Great. I don't want to pit the schools and the firefighters and the police officers against the downtown business owners. We are working together. We all are Portsmouth. But this is a creative way. The voters took you to task. You're coming through. I hope you pass all this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Peter Henderson, 217 Broad Street. I've listened with great interest to all the comments this evening. There's one thing that I don't believe has been mentioned thus far, and that's that the city does have several free parking facilities on the outskirts of the downtown area. I'm here just to remind everybody that these actually do exist. They are within very easy walking distance of downtown, and I think that there ought to be a premium to parking downtown. I think our rates are very low as they stand currently, but if people don't like what we're suggesting as far as increased rates go, they have options. They can use these facilities. I believe there's even a bus that will pick them up and transport them downtown at I'm not sure if it's no charge or very small charge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Hi, Lisa Sweet on Miller Ave. I don't know how it got to be that it's the businesses versus the schools, and I don't think it was ever meant to be that at all. I just know that when I'm very involved in the schools, and when I learned of what was going to happen with this last-minute budget impact that was coming down from Concord, when the budget hearings were held, I don't think that we were a donor town. So, I don't know if people would have come out, or more people probably would have come out if that had happened at that time. So it's not meant to be the businesses versus the school, but I do know that my kids will be directly impacted next September if this ordinance doesn't pass. And they're not going to get their first grade year and their third grade year back.
Lisa, we got to stick to the meters, dear.
Revenues. Okay. Well, then I will go and say that I guess parking is a commodity that the city owns. This revenue stream has been untouched for 7-8 years, I guess. I think that the business owners have been protected from that for that long. If there was any commodity that any business owner owned whose demand far exceeded the supply, that they would charge more for it, or they would charge market rates at least for it. Let me make sure if I don't have anything else to say. Yeah, so I just, if this is a way that we can fix this for now, we definitely support it as it was presented.
Thank you, Lisa. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is David Cummins. I live at 170 Gate Street, and I feel quite blessed to live in this city. I've been here 12 years, and we need to get real. These parking fees that we pay are so unrealistically low. We need to get them up there. I have to agree with some of these business owners and some other people who have come up here how this became an issue of school funding and whatnot. I'm not sure. I'm not as in tune to Portsmouth politics as maybe I should be. I actually spoke to Mr. Burke. I left him a message on his phone about a week ago regarding the new signs that went up on Hancock Street from the 2-hour parking. I park there all the time, and now I have to figure something out. My line of work takes me all over New England, New York, Boston, and we have it good. We have it real good here. And I think we need to seriously think that this has nothing to do with budgets or whatever. This just needs to be, we need to get in line with the rest of the world, And if people think $1 an hour or 75 cents an hour up at the parking garage is going to deter people from shopping here, we're a world of consumers. They're going to be coming here. That's not going to stop them. It's like saying $2 a gallon for gas is going to stop people from driving. Think again. They're going to be coming. So I came here tonight to support some friends of mine who are in the school department, as this was an issue of school funding of some nature. And I'm just here to say, well, let's get real. We need to just get these rates up there and get in line with everybody else. You know, we're probably a laughing stock of some New England cities and towns of how low it is. I walk to downtown. I love that. If it's pouring rain, if I'm coming from out of town, through town, I got to stop in my P.O. box. I'm okay with that, putting in the money in the meter. If I go to the parking garage, 50 cents an hour, it's a steal. $1 an hour. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bob Hassel returning again for the second time. Do what you have to do this year to balance the budget. But one thing I would like to see, and that is you should increase the meters, definitely. We are too low. But I would like to see the money that next year, instead of it being used to balance the budget, to be used to maybe build a new parking garage or to keep the parking garage that we now have clean, but put it into a fund specifically for parking. That I would like to see, instead of it just being put into a budget to balance out our budget of the city. So please consider that. And remember that downtown merchants, we always, at least I do, and my wife does, when people come in looking for quarters, we always give them the quarters. But we have to have a bag full of quarters with all these changes that you're going to be making. And people are not walking around town with 8, 10, 12 quarters in their pocket. So it does put a little bit of a strain on us downtown, even though we love to have them come in the store, because then they actually come into our store and see what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, were you going to come up and finish your little speech? I'm sorry I had to shut you off.
That's quite all right, Madam Mayor. Thank you for having me back up again. I'll try and keep this brief. I really didn't, as you can probably tell, this is a topic that I feel a little bit passionate about. And I do want to say, and I want to really state for the record that, yes, everybody in Portsmouth pays their share, without a doubt. But if you look at the numbers and you simply weigh, what does the downtown business district as a whole put into the fund versus what it draws out in terms of services, it is carrying a greater share of the burden than the typical homeowner in the city. That's really the way it should be, and I'm certainly not arguing that issue, the fairness of that. As a business owner, I'm very fortunate to be in Portsmouth, without a doubt. To speak to very specific points about this proposal, the rates of the meters on the street, are they too low compared to surrounding areas? They probably are. Could we go up? Probably. Would it be painful? Probably not. Is it a solution to a short-term budget shortfall? I don't think so. As I said before, I think it should be examined on its own merits. Should there be an incentive for people to park in the garage? And should that be a monetary incentive, having a higher rate on the street than in the garage? I believe absolutely so. Should we extend the hours? No. I think that's gouging, without a doubt. So if you want my opinion on that, I would say, if you held a gun to my head, I would say, sure, raise the rates on the meters, keep the rates in the garage lower. I won't tell you what they are. I'll let you guys figure that out. The extended hours, I would say that is really unreasonable. I do think that's bad for business and bad for Portsmouth as a whole. And I also would just ask one other thing to consider. The parking validation program, which is near and dear to my heart because I was one of the people who had proposed it to the city council in the first place. I would really hate to see the rates of that go up if the garage rates go up, because it would make it very, very difficult for me to continue to participate in it if it were if the cost of that were punitive. I like to be able to provide a parking validation for my customers, but if the cost of that goes up, if the garage fees go up, I'm going to find it very difficult to reconcile those numbers. So, I do agree with Stuart Chains when he says that compromise is the order of the day here. And I'm here standing asking for a compromise. I think we can come up with a package of ideas. I like some of the creative thoughts that have been floated here, and I hope that the council will consider those in its deliberations as well. So thank you very much for the time, and I promise I won't come up for a third round. I don't want to be one of those people. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Next speaker.
Taylor Maganoff, 227 Marcy Street, and I did speak out in favor of the increased revenue streams. I would also like just to add, I think that the idea of a forgiveness ticket is a wonderful idea of public relations for the city, and I think it would be a very good thing to look at. I support the notion of a sunset clause for the issue of dealing with the budget crisis this year. We need to do something. This is a creative solution, and if we had a sunset clause to look at what was the impact, I think we've heard a lot about.
We're not getting into the budget now, dear. It's strictly
the issue of the parking that we have heard a lot from the folks in the downtown business district saying they will be negatively impacted if there is an increase in parking. I think if we were to look at what actually happened after a year of these increases to see whether they were impacted would be a reasonable thing to do. And thirdly, I would just like to say that the gentleman who is concerned as a resident of downtown being hit more unfairly by having more tickets and increased fees that he'd have to pay at the meter, that perhaps the city council could look at the idea of a residential pass and a fee associated with that so that residents wouldn't need to be feeding the meters and they could have a pass that would allow them to park at the downtown area.
Thank you. I am to third and final time around. Do I have any other speakers before I close this public hearing?
You should give a raise to the guy collecting the fee at the meters. I mean, not the meters, at the garage. He's the best guy for public relations. When you give him your money, he's the happiest person in the world. Thank you.
Do I have any other speakers? Public hearing is closed. Thank you all very much.
10-minute recess.
Yes, I was going to.
10 minutes. To get out of here at 1 o'clock this morning. I'm with you.
Hey, my God, some quarters.
That's 2 minutes in real.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. I'm going to pass my gavel to the Assistant Mayor to do the public hearing regarding the omnibus parking ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the public hearing on ordinance amendment to Chapter 7 Vehicle Traffic Parking Omnibus Parking Ordinance, April 18, 2003 to April 15, 2004. The first one is an amendment to Chapter 7, Article 3, Section 7.326 and 7.327, limited parking. 1.1, Chapter 7, Article 3, Section 7.327, limited parking, 2 hours, Congress Street, southerly side from Chestnut Street to Church Street, except for the first 2 spaces westerly from the intersection of Fleet Street. 1.2 is Chapter 7, Article 3, Section 7.326, limited parking, 15 minutes, Congress Street, southerly side, first 2 spaces westerly side from the intersection of Fleet. Item number 2 is amendment to Chapter 7, Article 3, Section 7.326 and 7.327, limited parking. 2.1, Chapter 7, Article 3, Section 7.326, limited parking, 15 minutes, delete Market Street, last parking space on Market Street on the right side before entering Market Square to be dedicated for police cruiser parking only. Chapter 7, Article 3, Section 7.327, limited parking, 2 hours, Market Street, westerly side from Market Street to Bow Street, except for the first 2 parking spaces on Market Street, the first of which is hereby designated for the parking police cruiser only, and the second of which is designated as a taxi stand. The easterly side from Daniel Street to Deer Street, and C, both sides Deer Street to Russell Street. Chapter 7, Article 6, Section 7.601, truck loading, unloading zones established. Section 7, Article 6A, bus stops, taxi cab stands, and horse-drawn carriages. Section 7A.408, taxi stand designated. And Chapter 7, Article 4, Section 7.402B, off-street parking areas may be amended by the addition of business validation program. All of these have been in effect on a pilot basis as approved by the council, and they come to the council once a year. I think the city manager, did you want to have the parking director come down? Or is
I think after the readings, I think they're pretty self-evident.
Okay, so we'll open the public hearing, first time around. Any speakers? Second time around? Third and final time? Hearing is closed. That's how to run a public hearing.
Wow, you didn't have it.
Good job, Alex. I followed you all the way.
That's a nice thing to say to me. I thought I ran a darn good meeting with the house full.
You did, Madam
All
Mayor.
right.
You did a great job.
All right, quit picking on me. All right, now we're down. Here we go. We are down to the next public hearing. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 10-102, definitions, and Section 10-208, Table 4, regarding regulation issues on the ground floor of property in the central business A and B districts, and related ordinance provisions. Now, John?
If you want, Your Honor, what I'm going to ask is Cindy Hayden, the Deputy City Manager, to come forward and start this off. We're going to have about a 5-minute presentation or 2-minute presentation just explaining this matter. And there will be a suggested work session later on in the month of July with the Planning Board to have further discussion.
Good evening, Mayor Sorrell, members of the council. Just by very brief introduction of this, the proposed zoning amendment that's before you tonight is one that grew out of the master planning process. As you know, we've been developing the master plan over the last 18 months,
And the intent of this zoning amendment that relates to downtown is to keep the downtown commercially vibrant, commercially viable, and pedestrian-oriented. And that is to be accomplished by limiting the ground floor uses to non-residential uses, whether that be retail, service, office, but essentially to not permit new residential uses in the ground floor. And this is a trend, the switch from ground floor non-residential to residential, that the planning board has been observing and concerned about for some time now. It's also an issue that came up through the study circle process, which was part of the public input for the master plan, and the planning board therefore voted at their March 18th meeting to bring this forward to you as a proposed zoning amendment to be one of the first items of consideration of implementation of the master plan. And Rick Tainter, who's the consultant who's working with us to develop the master plan, is here tonight from Tainter and Associates, and he has just a few very brief PowerPoint slides that will hopefully, in a nutshell, illustrate this issue for you and the proposed solution.
Good evening, Mayor Sorrell and councilors. I'm Rick Tainter from Tainter and Associates, and I will go through this very quickly. I just want to give a quick orientation to what we're talking about here. This map is an aerial photograph of the downtown, shows the central business district. There are two elements of the central business district, as you can see from the proposals before you, CBA and CBB. CBB is the core of the central business district. It's in blue. CBA is in red. Just to give you a couple of landmarks, the Parade Mall is at the edge of the CBB district. Islington Street goes down to the lower left to Congress Street, and Maplewood Avenue comes around through here and down that way. So that's just to give you a quick look at what we're talking about. We went out and did some field work, and I just want to quickly say that I did 2 days of field work, and the first day I got a $5 parking ticket, and the second day I parked in the parking garage. Just to bring it all back to where we were. But in this slide, we have the first floor uses, the actual existing first floor uses in the CBA and CBB districts. The red areas are the areas that are currently have some commercial or non-residential use. Could be office, could be service, could be a bank, retail. So these are the uses that are, the reddish colors are the ones that are currently a non-residential use. The yellow, they're actually yellow in the original, it looks sort of greenish here. These are first floor residential uses. Right here are the Porter Street condominiums that everybody knows about. This is Sheep Street down through here, the Pier 2 area. And then there are some residential uses here on High Street, and then some others scattered throughout the area. Quite a few first floor residential uses on Islington Street. The gray areas are areas where there are no buildings. So you have here the parking areas for the Sheraton, the Vaughan Street parking lot here, some other parking lots and vacant lots this is the parking lot in Congress Street next to Eagle Photo. The next slide. In this case, there are some dark red areas that we're trying to highlight, areas where there have been some proposals for residential use, and this is really why this proposal is before you right now, to look at what could be happening given the conditions of the market in Portsmouth right now. There's a very strong demand for residential uses. There have been proposals for the Parade Mall. It was originally at one point proposed for full residential. The Eagle Photo area, mentioned the Porter Street condominiums. The First National Bank was originally proposed to have quite a bit of residential in it. The Knights of Columbus down here is converting from non-residential to residential, and there are various areas here on State Street that are in the Pier 2 area there that are all being proposed or have been proposed at one point or another for residential use. And the issue here is the loss of a continuous retail street frontage, pedestrian-oriented frontage to keep the downtown viable. So there are two aspects, two components to the proposal. One is a definition, because we needed to define what a ground floor was, and this breaks down the definition into its components. We're saying that for the purposes of this definition, the ground floor is any story of a building in which the floor is less than 6 feet or above or below the finished grade. So if you have a first floor that's a little bit above, but you've got a full story below, only the first floor would count. But if it's actually completely split, then you could actually have two ground floors for the purposes of this. And again, the idea is to keep continuous street frontage. Now, the changes that we're making, proposing to make in the use table are essentially three changes. The first change is to consolidate a number of different uses into three. Into two uses. The ordinance is somewhat confusing in that it deals differently with new uses, expansions of uses, and conversions of uses, and we've tried to combine those all together, so we've simplified the table somewhat. The second change is in terms of a building that is entirely residential in the CBA and CBB district. Right now, those uses would be allowed, and we're proposing that they not be allowed. So we're changing the P, meaning permitted use, in the column under CBA and CBB to an N, meaning not permitted. And the final major change is where you do have a mixed-use building, where we're suggesting that mixed-use buildings be allowed, but that the ground floor be restricted to non-residential uses. There's also a technical correction here, really, which is in the general business district, which is not the focus of this proposal. There's an existing, essentially a typo, as I understand it, where some uses, I believe it's expansions are allowed, but new uses and conversions aren't allowed, that are entirely where there are mixed uses. So it's just to correct a change. There's a footnote in the bottom of your handout that explains what that change is. It's something that was brought to you in previous years, I believe, and was combined with other proposals and didn't go through. So that's really in the nature of a technical change. The three major changes are combining the six uses into two, making the change from permitted to non-permitted of entirely residential uses, and then for mixed uses, requiring the ground floor to be non-residential. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. I'll obviously be meeting with you again at the work session later on.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we're going to open up the public hearing for first-time speakers, for, against, or simply to. Name and address, but I think we all know you, Mr. Grossman.
John Grossman, 170 Mechanic Street, Portsmouth. And I want to say good evening, Madam Mayor, City Councilors, and staff, and to express that I am speaking as an individual, not part of any organization. I don't think, first of all, Rick, I want to say thank you for showing us the map, because I think the maps show that we don't have a problem. And I'd also like to say in the areas where you showed the bright red, I think it was on the third slide, most of those areas that are being proposed for residential, all the residential was not on the first floor. So it's a little misleading to look at those red spots. I don't think this is going to guarantee us mixed use. I don't think it's going to make our streetscape more interesting. The proposed ordinance doesn't guarantee these things. And basically what it's going to say to individuals, we don't want you to invest in the downtown areas or these central district areas. You have to be a developer because you're going to have to put commercial development in with it. And what it's going to say to the planning and the zoning boards, be prepared because you're going to have to make a lot of exceptions because there are a lot of streets where having commercial down on the main floor is not appropriate. And we certainly know that as far as Sheaf Street is concerned. We know it as far as the townhouses are concerned on Porter Street. And Bob Thorson pointed out areas in his letter on Sunday. And I was in a building today on State Street, the Sheaf House, which has been a residential building since 1827 and is now being taken from apartments into condos. Is that the kind of building we want to change all of a sudden to force commercial downtown? And just because you have commercial, does that guarantee us that it's going to be an interesting building? Does it guarantee us that the tourists are going to like it anymore or that we're going to like it anymore? Let's face it. In Joe Stanley's building on with the building he used to own on Market Square. We now have a mortgage office in there with a couple of signs. The building that Strawberry Bank owns on State Street, you walk by it, it's a real estate office now, and you get to see desks and screens, monitors. These people have not taken any interest in making their offices more presentable as to give a sense of place. I wish they would. The marketplace for years has determined the mixed downtown that we have. And I think it's done it very well through freedom of choice. And I think the proposed legislation will stifle that freedom. It will stifle future investment in many areas. Thank you.
Thank you, John, very much. We're still at first time around. Do I have any other speakers? We're to second time around. Do I have any speakers? We're at third and final time around. Before I close this public hearing, do I have any speakers? Closed. The next one is a resolution authorizing borrowing in anticipation of revenues and taxes in the amount of $16 million. John, would you quickly like to speak to that?
Yes, Your Honor, I will. As you are aware by state law, the city bills the property taxes twice a year in arrears. For example, the first half, the tax bill in FY05 will be issued in October, and it's not due until December 2004, even though our fiscal year starts July 1st, 2004. Similarly, the second half bill is not due until June 1st, 2005. Because property taxes constitute our single largest source of revenue, this lag in billing causes a large temporary cash flow problem for us in both the beginning and the middle of the fiscal year. Each year, this requires us to borrow money on a short-term basis until property taxes come in. The attached resolution passed first reading at your May 17th City Council meeting, and if after the public hearing, I'll be recommending that pass second and final reading.
Good. I'd like to open up this public hearing. For, against, or simply to. Do I have any speakers? Second time around. Third and final time before I close this public hearing. Do I have any speakers? Closed. We're down now to the acceptance of grants and donations. The first one is acceptance of a donation from Parrott Avenue Place in the amount of $2,500. What is your wish, Councilor?
Move to accept.
Second. Can I ask a question? Is there any strings attached to this?
No.
Okay.
None whatsoever.
Any other questions before we take the vote? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Now we're down to considerations of resolutions and ordinances. Second reading of ordinance amending Chapter 7, Article 1, 4, and 9, Section 7, Period 102, Parking Meter Zones, Section 7, Period 105, Parking, Section 7, Period 405, Authority given to regulate areas, and Section 7, Period 901, penalties, proposed adjustment to the parking meter rates and fines. What is your wish, Councilor?
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt second reading on amendments to the parking ordinance as presented and hold a third and final reading at your July 12th City Council meeting.
Your Honor, move to amend that motion to delete Sunday under Section 7.105. And third and final reading on June 28th.
Do I get a second?
Yeah, second.
Very good. You all ready for the vote?
The amendment.
Or discussion?
On the amendment, right?
On the amendment.
That's right.
All ready for the vote on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Now we're... The May. Would you read it, Kelly, for everybody? Yep. Move to pass second reading of the adjustment of parking meter rates, parking fines, and hours of enforcement. We're going to delete the Sunday hours and hold third and final reading at the June 28th special city council meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move to, we have the motion.
We have a motion. Oh, you got a motion? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We just need to
Move the question.
move the question. All right. Are we all ready to move the question?
Oh, Your Honor, a few questions I want to ask.
Very good.
Mr. Bohinko, there was a handout given to us about implementing a program every 6 months and changing it during the winter of the year. Can you comment on that? Because I think I mentioned that earlier in our discussions about meter rates.
Yes, if I might, Your Honor.
Yes.
What my suggestion will be is that we take that information, and I'll work with the Parking and Transportation Department and the Parking Committee, and over the course of the next few months, we can take a look at some of these suggestions that have been made, and probably for next year we can come up with a review of this and bring back to you if we feel this is a valid proposal or not. But I think it needs some study. I think we need to do some evaluation of it, and I think that's what I said to you a couple of days ago.
There's no way of implementing this before our June 28th meeting.
I don't think we would be able to hold another public hearing and go through, because this would be a substantive change to the proposal that we have. My suggestion is that we I've taken a lot of notes tonight. I'll be working with the parking director, and we'll take a look and work with the parking committee. We work throughout the year. The assistant mayor's chair of that committee, and certainly we'll take a look at this. I think there are some things that have been said tonight that have merit, and we need to look at. And so clearly we will look at that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
Is there some way that we can put into this that there be a review of this throughout the year to see how it's working and perhaps a sunset on it to redo it?
John?
Your Honor, I think that's probably a good thing Councilor Pantelakis has brought up, but I don't think it needs to be part of the ordinance. I think you just have to tell me to do it, that's all. And I'll come back to you and give me a time certain, and we'll probably do it, sometime probably after the first of the year, January, February, because we'll have the summer season and part of the fall season to evaluate. And so after the motion if it is approved, then I have an instruction from the City Council to have the Parking Committee come back with a report in February. Does that seem reasonable, Assistant Mayor? We'll come back with a report to see how it's going.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Yes, Steve?
First, kind of a procedural question, going on what you just said. In terms of a sunset-type provision as compared to just a periodic review, I think part of this is to send a clear message to the folks out there, the public, that I know I don't really like the idea of doing something pretty substantial in terms of a pretty substantial change in parking policy in a fairly short order. And then I think it's something that between now and the end of the next budget year needs to be reviewed in totality along with many other things. And I think a lot of other people that I've talked to have felt that way. If you need to do it in the short term, not the end of the world, but as long as they know that between now and next June 30th that we're going to look at this as part of a larger parking discussion and flow of traffic and impact on business and all of these different factors. If short of a sunset provision, how do I put this here? Do we need, I guess I would feel a lot better with the sunset provision, except that we could not do that and pass it in time for June 30th, correct?
Yes, and Your Honor, if I might speak to Councilor Marchand, you just have to tell me. If you tell me and say you need a report back with X, Y, and Z, certainly I'll work with the staff, and my track record is I'll bring you back that report. And the sunset comes from actually amending ordinances. We amended ordinances all the time. All it takes is 3 readings to do it. In January or February, if you want me to bring back a report and have me work with the parking committee, I certainly will. Got some very capable staff, and we have a great parking committee. So we've heard a lot of things tonight, and we'll certainly come back with some ideas for you.
Okay, and the second part is I'd be curious to get something that came up a little bit in the discussion here, but I'd be curious to get a little more feedback. I personally have some issues with the extension of the hours from 6 to 7 p.m. That's probably outside of the Sunday, which is off limits anyway, probably the part of this that I have the biggest problem with, and I think a lot of other people tonight shared that concern. I'd be curious to get a little feedback about that.
Well, that came out of your work session, Counselor. That was not an original proposal by the city staff. If you recall, out of the work session, those hours were added.
Oh, I know. I just don't like it. I'm not, but I know there's a lot of people. But I think I would be curious as to, after hearing a lot of feedback over the last month or two, what may have seemed like a better idea at the time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it doesn't seem like it's a good idea.
It's certainly something we can take a look at.
Assistant Mayor Hanson?
There's another concept that was very good tonight, and I think that we ought to look at. It's a $300,000 item, but that was the great PR that Portland gets with that forgiveness ticket. So I think that that's something that we need to look at for next year. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a great PR piece. And so then I think you get a trade-off where it's a $300,000 item. Would you rather have that or reduce parking fees in January and February, you know? And so I think there's going to be a lot of give and take, and the downtown merchants aren't shy about coming to us. The second item is one speaker that lived on Fleet Street. It just simply amazed me about the tickets and everything when he could get a garage pass and he's one block from the parking garage. So I don't think that held any weight. The reason that we're extending the hours from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock is, quite frankly, it's their employees. You never heard one person tonight say, I'll tell my employees they're fired if they park in front of the store. And then you had owners saying that they were feeding the meters that testified tonight. And what we're trying to do is get turnover. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the meters are done for the day right now. You go in, you feed the meter at 3 o'clock, you go into work at 3:30, or if you're home for the day, 3 o'clock for the 2 hours, okay? And you're pretty well done for the day, okay? We have a 4 o'clock shift that comes in for the restaurants, and there's a huge, there's probably 80 parking spaces that get eaten up by the employees. So there's no turnover. With enforcement till 6 o'clock, by the time the meter people go back up to City Hall and everything, you've got to back that up 2 hours, and as soon as that meter person walks by at 3:30 or whatever, there she goes, and you feed the meter, and that's it for the day. You're done. And so the meter is gone. Here, it would go until 5 o'clock. And that shift has already happened. Those people are already at work at their 4 o'clock, and you're going to save 80 parking spots. You're going to save 80 parking spots. The employees continue to park in front of each other's businesses right on the main street. It makes no sense. So I would encourage them to do the parking passes, and I think John Burke's absolutely correct. If we keep those the same, there's an incentive for those employees to go ahead and use the parking garage in the residence. So that's why the extended periods.
They've been doing that for years.
Yeah, we'll never get away with it.
Tom?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was under the impression, and if I am wrong procedurally, I'd happily be corrected, that you can change during the readings, as we have already done in the case of the Sunday removal. During the course of the 3 readings, you do have opportunities to amend. Is that correct?
Typically, I'll defer to the city attorney, but historically, since I've been here, there've never been amendments on the 3rd reading, but I'll... Amendment can occur at 3rd reading, but only by suspension of the rules and a 2/3 vote.
Well, the reason I asked the question, and I just throw this out to my fellow councilors, I certainly accept the manager in the Traffic Department and the Traffic and Safety Commission's good faith to work diligently on this, and I have no doubt that that will occur. I'd be shocked if it didn't. And the interesting proposals we've received tonight are just that. Having said that, I do know that we have a work session tomorrow night, and I would be willing to bet, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily wedded to this plan, and certainly these things need significant study, but it would kind of be nice to see a revenue projection based on one of the submittals we received, which I'm sure could be readily turned out in a matter of hours. And we have a work session tomorrow night, and I raised that issue simply because, I mean, again, I don't want to do anything in haste, but one could make an argument that what we're doing on parking in and of itself is perhaps in haste. So to tweak it a little bit may or may not be well advised, but I wonder if it's possible to have at least a little quantitative understanding about what a seasonal plan might do. And I'm not making an amendment, I just raised that issue because procedurally I understand it would be possible, should we desire, to amend it.
Your Honor, if I might speak to that, I agree with Councilor Farini, but I think we need to call other communities that have these seasonal programs and find out where their peaks and valleys are. I mean, we're going to have to get the data from other communities. When their peaks hit, how does their revenue stream are affected? We can do it, but I would not want to, and I don't think John Burke would, as our Director of Parking and Transportation, throw out some numbers and without going through and talking to other communities that have these types of seasonal plans. And clearly, that's something we can look at, but I don't think it would be prudent to do that in the next week or two. I think you need to take some time, you need to review it. I think it's valid, and I think we need to come back to you with the information once we go through and we collect it from other areas.
Thank you.
Councilor Whitehouse, and then Councilor Reno.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm supporting most of the changes that are coming down in reference to parking and meters, but I took account of what some of the downtown business associates are saying, and they're willing to give a little bit. But I counted 4 people who emphasized on the increase of hours, and I feel like my fellow Councilor Michon that this is not the way to go. I think we're getting just a little too greedy. I would like to offer an amendment after I say a few more words, and I'd like to go along with what the business people are saying. This would really hurt. Even that extra hour, I don't think it's worth it. I see that we'll be raising about $135,000 by going the extra hour, but think of the attendance that we're going to have to be paying. Think of the people on a Friday and Saturday night that are standing in line at our restaurants. Think of that they're in line at 5 o'clock, thinking they would be out by 6, and it's a weekend that draws a tremendous amount of tourists. So I don't think it's worth it. That extra hour, we're increasing the meter rates, we're increasing the fines, we'll probably be increasing the garage rates, but I'm saying I'd like to back off on the extra hour. And so, Your Honor, I'd like to offer an amendment in Section 7.105 parking that we remove the time of 7 p.m. from that section, Section C. That would bring it back to the regular time of 9 to 6.
Do I get a second?
I'll second that.
Very good. We all, Ned, you wanted to say something before we go on with the vote here on the amendment?
Yes, Your Honor, thanks. Won't say much, but I've just been, I'm in general agreement with several of my colleagues who seem to indicate that, I think we really did get some valuable input from a wide spectrum of the community tonight. And I found myself sitting here making notes, sort of, okay, we presented one, in a way, comprehensive package of parking rate and fine increases, and then various members of the community suggested, some modifications and spoke for and against different parts. And so I guess I heard the city manager and the city attorney say that it is within our power to make amendments during the process to what is presented at readings. It's unusual, but we can do it, and I guess I would certainly be open to that, because I think we had a very extensive public hearing, and that's all I'll say for now.
Are we all ready to vote on the amendment? Yes.
If you vote in favor of this, then you just gave up a minimum of 80 spaces, because remember, in this, we've changed the fines from 5 to 10 for just an expired meter. It's $15 if you're over the 2-hour limit.
That's right.
The employees that are in there 4:45, 3:30, that are feeding the meter to get beyond the 6 o'clock will have fed the meter. Okay, you're giving up a minimum of 80 spaces. You have not You have not solved that problem. The only way you're going to solve that problem is extend it that 1 hour. If you don't care about it, and I'm telling you, the merchants make more money with turnover of those parking spots, and we don't need the employees parked in front of those spaces. We want turnover in the spaces. So
May I answer that,
I'm
Your Honor?
going to vote against it.
Steve and then Harold.
Let me ask this question, and it's not meant to be rhetorical at all. I mean, it's for informational purposes. I've had several business people talk to me specifically about this one provision that they don't support. There were several business people tonight who expressed their dismay that this would be a part of the package. So are you saying that they don't understand this?
We've had them before the parking committee. Not one of them will send letters in writing to their employees saying, if you're on Market Street, don't park on Bow Street in front of another business. And on Bow Street, there's people parking on Market Street. Not one of them has sent a memo out and said, try not to park in front of another business. That's the extent of it. No one's been chastised by the employer, and the owners are parking right in front. Look at their signature plates. They're parking right in front of their own businesses. And they're feeding the meters. They're not turning it over for customers. Mm-hmm. So that's the only point I make.
Harold and then Laura.
Yes, Your Honor. I feel just the opposite of my fellow colleague, Alex Hansen. I'm looking at a different view. I'm looking at a Friday, a Saturday night, any night during the evening of July and August downtown. A tremendous amount of people. They're shopping. They're in our restaurants. And I think the extra hour would hurt business in general. And I counted like 5 people, and they're downtown business people, and they spoke against this part of the change. So that's why I'm bringing it up.
Councilor Bandelakis?
Yes, if you work at the Newington Mall and you park within the center of that mall, you are recommended by the manager of that mall. Why can't the city of Portsmouth owning them that street and parking meter, knowing that these business owners and people are working there, find some way to penalize them people for doing that, if it's going to cost 80 meters?
It's an enforcement nightmare for the city. It's got to be through the employer. There's no way the city could do it.
Okay.
I guess I have to pass my gavel.
Madam Mayor?
I was a meter maid for 8.5 years. You tell me all the tricks, and I'll tell you more. And Alec is absolutely right. They take advantage. I remember down in front of the post office, there were meters. And they'd park their cars, IRS, Social Security, they'd park their cars in the morning. The only way that we could get them, people, were to chalk the tires, which we did. And I had a list, and when I'd walk down through there, I could pick the cars out. I mean, after a while, you got to know them all. And I still say, in some cases where we have meters, we've got to get the meter people to chalk those tires too, because you'd be surprised how many of these abusers you'd pick up.
Steve?
I guess this would go back to my point about the big picture parking, trying to come up with a comprehensive, forward-looking parking policy, and that is, I agree with the desire for a turnover of spaces. I think that's of paramount importance. But it seems like that the ultimate way to do that, if you're going to do it most effectively, and I'm no expert, but it seems like it would be to provide incentives for people to use the garage whenever possible. This would not, at least for the typical person, as I understand it, really provide any of that incentive. I understand it's also the biggest ticket item that to do anything about that would be a big hit on our effort to try to not increase taxes and not cut services too much. So again, for this year, I don't know how realistic that is, but in terms of a comprehensive strategy looking forward that's not based on a June 30th deadline, it seems to me that getting a lot of turnover at the spaces, that would be a more direct way of attacking that problem in the long term. But I don't want to use a Band-Aid that I'm not sure will solve the problem as well as something else, just to raise $130,000 this year.
Assistant Mayor Hanson?
We do have the parking validation program with 40 different businesses downtown but you have to use the garage. That's where the validation comes in. And people are getting used to that. It's becoming very popular. So I think, and that's new this year. So we're getting there. We can't do it overnight. But that validation program we said would be successful. And I think if we got 25 and at 40, it's just a huge success. So that discount, so you can park for 2 hours for free.
Right.
You know, and I think they're allowed to do for 2 hours, right?
As well as the employees?
Whatever the employer wants to do with that validation program. They're using it for the customers, so I can tell you.
Sure.
Councilor Pandalakis?
Yes, I was supporting the doing away with the 7 o'clock, but I have to think twice about that. I wanted to do it as a compromise for the businesses, but if they can't even control their own employees, then I can't go for lowering the time back to 6, because we need them 80 parking spaces. There's no doubt about it. But I would hope that in the report that John is going to get back to us, that he would maybe write letters to the businesses and ask them what they could do to help us to give them a turnover of the parking meters. It's them, it's benefit, not us. We're getting the money out of the meter, but they're not getting a parking space in front of their business.
John? Did you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what the assistant mayor said. I think before the parking committee, and as you're well aware, once the parking committee does pass something that comes and it's ratified by the city council through its minutes, one of the things that we could evaluate in July and August is we go at 90% of the rate now. We could evaluate and adjust that so that we can encourage the validation program to be, again, incentivized. So maybe that's something we can look at and encourage if we incentivize to the point where they might even help with their employees as well. The other thing that I wanted to speak to was the issue as it relates to the information that we get you. We will put together in conjunction with the parking committee a comprehensive report that will identify the various areas. Again, I think we have and just speaking to Councilor Marchand, we have looked at many of these. The Park Committee works on a regular basis. We've looked at multiple scenarios that the Assistant Mayor has sat through. So we are looking at them. We don't bring everything forward, but what I intend to do in January is, in working with the Parking Committee, is bring a comprehensive review of how other communities do things and taking a look at some of these other options.
I think it's time that we move the amendment.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Maybe you should read it,
Sure.
Kelly, in case someone...
Yep. Move to amend the ordinance under section 7.105 to remove the hours of enforcement from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. back to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Assistant Mayor Hanson?
No.
Councilor Grasso?
No.
Councilor Farini?
No.
Councilor Marchand?
Yes.
Councilor Panalakis?
No.
Councilor Hines?
No.
Councilor Reynolds?
No.
Councilor Whitehouse?
Yes.
Mayor Sorrell?
No.
7-2 fails.
Now we're going to vote for the main motion. You want... what was that? I'm sorry.
I wanted to speak on the main motion.
Oh, on the main motion? Okay, well, all right. We're all set to go then. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wasn't sold on this ordinance change, but since our last council meeting, I have spoken informally to people. They didn't take a scientific survey or anything. But I did ask people how you feel about the increase in the parking meters. Not one person I spoke to had anything bad to say about it. Everyone said, oh, it doesn't matter to me, or it's okay with me. I was the only one that felt that we shouldn't raise the meter price. So with that as a background, I'm going to support the change in the ordinance.
Very good. We all ready for the vote? Did you want a roll call?
Steve,
Steve,
Sorry.
you see what time it is. We're all getting tired.
I'll be brief and then I'll be quiet. And I would just urge my fellow councilors that that regardless of how you feel about this, any or all of these changes, that I would hope that when we discuss the expenditure side between now and the 30th, that we look at them as separate items, and that just because we increase revenue tonight doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep a pretty sharp eye on what we can cut in expenditures tomorrow.
We certainly will. You know that, Steve. Tom?
I just wanted to say that I hope in the taking of data, while I voted against the motion to not extend hours, or to allow the hours to remain extended rather, and I intended that they remain extended, and I voted in that fashion, I would like any quantitative data we can get on that as far as study is concerned, and or additional anecdotal information would be helpful, because I would like to look at it again comprehensively and intend to treat it very much in the nature of a sunset provision, even though we are not adding that to the ordinance. And that's all I have to say.
All right, Harold and then Ned.
Yeah, Your Honor, even though I lost on my resolution to change the hours back to 6 o'clock, I will support the main motion.
Ned?
Yeah, I just wanted to support what Councilor Free just said. I also had some reservations about the increased hour, given what we heard tonight. However, I have a lot of respect for the experience of the assistant mayor and the mayor with regard to that. So I didn't vote for the motion to rescind the extension of the hour. But I just want to say that based on what we heard tonight, I thought that the principle of, given that we want to encourage parking in the garage versus parking at the meters, that the principle of having the garage remain cheaper than the meters has a lot of merit, and combined with, I thought that the proposal for seasonal variation, increasing meters even to $1 an hour during the high demand time of the year has merit. So I will also very much look forward to the city manager and the parking and transportation coordinators' comprehensive analysis, so we can take a look at this next year, and as well another number of people. And I always thought that the forgiveness ticket had merit as a PR move, and we letting people know that we do value their patronage of our downtown businesses. So I look forward to dealing with this in a more comprehensive and with more time manner over the next year.
Are we all ready for the vote? Do you want a roll call or just a regular one?
Regular.
A regular? Okay. Does anyone have to hear that again? The main motion? Okay, we're all set then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Unanimous. Now we're down to the second reading of amendments to Chapter 7, Vehicles, Traffic, Parking, Omnibus, Parking Ordinance, April 18th, 2003. What's the matter?
Hey, no, Resolution D.
That's what you're reading.
That's what I'm reading.
Oh, okay, all right.
You're right now. Oh, Jesus. I don't need that tonight, Harold, all right? Omnibus Parking Ordinance, April 18th, 2003 to April 15th, 2004. Now, councilors, I don't think it's necessary that I read those all again, because if it is, I'm going to pass it to Alan.
Move second reading and hold third and final reading at the July 12th City Council meeting.
Second. Any discussion? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, now we're down to second reading of ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 10-102, definitions, and Section 10-208, Table 4 regarding regulation issues on the ground floor of property in the Central Business A and B District, and related ordinances provisions.
Move to table second reading until after the work session with the planning board. Second.
All right, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, now we're down to the adoption of resolution authorizing borrowing in anticipation of revenues and taxes in the amount of $16 million. Councilors, we have to have a two-thirds vote on this to adopt tonight. Councilor Whitehouse?
Your Honor, I move to adopt the resolution to authorize the borrowing in anticipation of revenues and taxes in the amount of up to $16 million.
Second.
Very good. Discussion?
Roll call.
Assistant Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Councilor Grasso?
Yes.
Councilor Farini?
Yes.
Councilor Marchand?
Yes.
Councilor Penelakis?
Yes.
Councilor Hines?
Yes.
Councilor Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilor Whitehouse?
Yes.
Mayor Sorrell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, very good. That's what we're looking for. Now we're down, let's see, now we're down to presentations. Presentations and considerations of written communications and petitions. The first one is a request for a sidewalk obstruction license for Stephen Little, Seacoast Hearing Center, to place a 1A frame sign in front of his establishment.
Move the city manager with power.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Request for a sidewalk obstruction license for Angela Bilo, something like that, Bliss, requesting permission to place a 1A frame sign in front of establishment.
Move to the city manager with power.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? A letter from Alexandra Arbosca, PETA, requesting permission to hold a demonstration in Market Square at the intersection of Market and Islington Street on Wednesday, June 30th, 2004, from noon to 1 p.m.
Where's the intersection of Islington
I
and
know
Market?
it.
No such place. There's no such place.
No. They want it in front of the North Church.
Well,
Madam Mayor,
The bed.
I have a
Yes.
question. Is this the organization that was down in front of the middle
Yeah,
school?
sure is.
Your Honor,
I would like to deny this.
I'll second the motion. That's the motion?
Is it a motion, Council?
Is that
Why don't we-
the
a motion
And,
to deny
that's a
this.
second. Discussion, anybody?
Your Honor,
Yes, Errol, and then Ned.
that came before us last year at the same time, and I think we rejected it then. Thank you.
since there's no such place as Market and Islington Street.
No.
I don't think that's any place for a bed in front of the North Church either. Ned?
Well, I'm not, I guess I think we could probably interpret that, well, as far as the location, yeah, you're right. No such place. But as to the motion to deny because of what the organization is or the statement that they're making, there's this thing called the First Amendment.
Your Honor, if I
right
might.
to free speech, and I'm not sure that the content of the message is a basis, proper basis for us to be granting or denying a request.
Your Honor, and I agree with Councilor Reynolds on that. If they walked around in their carrot suits, that would be okay. To set up a bed is a sidewalk obstruction. I think that's appropriate because we just voted on sidewalk obstructions and we require people to have certain dimensions and et cetera. So I think the city attorney would agree if they want to get in their carrot suits and and walk around on the sidewalk and not set up a table or a bed, I think that's fine. You're right. You're absolutely correct.
Councilor Hines?
Your Honor, I would think that we would be non-judgmental if they withdrew the denial motion and just vote to accept that and place it on file.
I don't wish to remove my denial motion because I do not want someone on beds in the streets of Portsmouth set up. And that's what I'm basing it on. I think that if they want to walk around in carrot suits or whatever they choose to, that's their prerogative. But I don't think beds there should be on the sidewalks in the city of Portsmouth.
The assistant mayor has the chair and recognizes the mayor.
People, I think some of you are new here to the city of Portsmouth and possibly, we know, to the council. I was down at the middle school a year ago when they had these huge cameras going and everything else. All the young children are coming out of school. They were holding up pigs, cutting their necks off. They were holding up chickens. It was horrible. It was truly horrible. And I said right then, they would never enter this city again as far as I was concerned as the mayor.
Councilor Marchand.
Thank you. I do remember that last year. I thought that was abhorrent. As now, since then, I have my first child, and she's 9.5 months old. Right now, it wouldn't be an issue. But if she was, say, 5 or 6 or 7 and walked by a bed where the message was that anybody, vegetarian, omnivore, carnivore, whatever, are better lovers, I don't really think, as a counselor, that I want to make parents in this community have to tell their 5-year-old or 7-year-old what's that. That's not appropriate. There are other ways to get. It's not about the group. It could be omnivores. I could care less. It's what they're doing that I think is inappropriate. And frankly, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems kind of prurient, and I think is objectionable to community standards. I don't think it meets the community standards that we use to determine what's appropriate.
City Attorney, I have a question. Since there's no such place as Islington and Market Street, are we on solid ground in denying this?
The city manager, who has been through this before, has it exactly right. As long as the issue is obstructing sidewalks, wherever it is, you're on firm ground denying.
Any further discussion, Councilor Reynolds?
Yeah, I'd just like to speak up and say I appreciate the city manager's point. I think that denying this request on the basis either of the fact that there is no such place and therefore the request doesn't make any sense, or that we would object to such a large sidewalk obstruction is fine. I would support denying this request on either of those bases. That's not what I heard Councilor Pandalakos say that her objection was based on. So
What did I say?
You said that is this the group that did the horrific display in front of the middle school? And
okay, we ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
But I don't want to be classed as being someone that would deny anyone their rights. I just do not think that it's proper for a bed to be on the streets of the city of Portsmouth. And that's what I meant.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I accept
Clear?
that.
You ready?
Roll
for the
call,
vote?
roll call, please, on this one.
Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody votes no, then we'll.
Wow.
All,
Very important.
okay, the votes to deny. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? You need a roll call on that?
Wow, I
No.
thought there'd be, somebody said no.
Okay.
Nobody said no,
Okay.
did they?
I'm going to turn the gavel back over to the mayor.
Nobody said no.
Unanimous.
Okay.
A letter from B. Ann Kendall regarding the number of motorcycles allowed to park in a space in the downtown. What's your wish, councilors? Yes, Councilor Whitehouse.
Your Honor, I move that we accept the communication and place it on file.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? A letter
Hey,
from...
Bob, what's the answer to the question? How many motorcycles can we put in this space?
They seem to be neat
The
there.
police will allow them to parallel park the motorcycles perpendicular, as many as they can get.
In space?
In one space, isn't it?
No.
No, they'll allow them to put more than one motorcycle.
No, I mean, the numerous are parked, like 6 or 8 of them are all parked in just one parking space, instead of taking up 6 or 8 parking spaces, right?
all right, now where am I?
Lori?
Poet laureate.
Okay, a letter from Paula Race, Poet Laureate Program, requesting permission to permanently display a piece of artwork by Portsmouth Poet Laureate John Perrault at City Hall.
Move to city manager with power.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? Aye, Harold.
Yeah, she's looking for a volunteer. According to this communication, she'd like somebody to volunteer from either the city council or the city.
Want to work on it with me, Harold?
No, I don't think so. No. I know these two ladies very well.
I move that Harold be the volunteer.
Second.
I don't mind. Nancy Hill and Mrs. Joyce is a good friend of mine.
Well, they are of mine too, Harold.
Whatever you want me to do, Mayor.
I think we should pass it to John because it's going to need a little research. Okay?
I'll consult Councilor Whitehouse.
We got to find out what kind of a picture it is, you know?
Well, it's going to be probably a poem and...
Your Honor, the only
Yes.
concern I have is that we've had other poet laureates, and we haven't displayed their works. So maybe looking this through, we could put Esther Buffer and I forget who the other one was.
We have in the parking garage. We have
Yes, in the garage,
right,
but
we
not at
did.
City Hall.
Right.
Yeah.
But it might be nice to staff that tradition someplace in
Yeah, we can
City
take a
Hall.
look at that.
Finding the room, Joanne.
I know. That's
New library.
Okay, yeah, right. You want to vote on that now?
day without saying that.
Your Honor, maybe even the high school.
Yeah, right.
I'll take a look
There's
at
a
the
lot
artwork.
of corridors up there.
We'll pass it to John, and after he solves the problem, then he can tell Harold it's all taken care of. Okay. Now we're down to 11. Oh, wait a minute. Got to move the question, everybody. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. A letter from Peter Henderson requesting that the school department be exempt from any budget cuts.
Move to accept and place on file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. A letter from Emily Fazzolo, I'm killing these names, Don Dero school student regarding sidewalks on Beverly Hill Road. And I'd like to have a counselor read that little letter. That was really, yes, Tom.
Dear Mayor, I'm a first grader at Dondero School. My friend Chance lives and plays on Beverly Hill Road. He got hurt while riding his bike when a car hit him. He went to the hospital but was fine. Beverly Hill needs sidewalks so Chance will not get hurt again. Thank you, your friend, Emily Favaloro.
Very good.
Move to accept and place on file.
Very good. Did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ned?
Discussion?
What?
Discussion?
Oh, go right ahead.
Wow. I had not heard of this incident. Sounds like the city really dodged a bullet here. I think just before we just place it on file, I think we ought to take special note here. Beverly Hill is one of those major arteries of the city where you go down and you see it's got a 6-inch shoulder on the right side of the white line, and it's a major through artery, and we ought to be looking in our capital improvement plan in the next years to put shoulders on these roads and make Portsmouth the pedestrian and bicycle-friendly city that people want it to be.
Didn't we just move to middle?
Your Honor, we have included this in the capital plan. It is in an out year. It is in there already. It's in unfortunately, it's 09, but we'll take a look at it.
All ready for the vote?
I think we just upgraded Middle Road, which was after Beverly. You wanted it before Beverly in that plan. So, I mean, those things come and go. I mean, we get a lot of requests like this. So there's 17 homes on Beverly Hill Road. It's an issue that needs to be addressed, I agree.
Yeah, I think.
It is in the capital plan. Yes.
Yep, I appreciate that.
Yeah. All ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. A letter from Rick Condon, Portsmouth Professional Firefighters, requesting permission to hold a voluntary boot drive in Market Square on Saturday, July 17th, 2004, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Saturday.
And I just wanted to say before we go too far, that is one thing that's very effective and very warming to your heart to see. Yes, Councilor.
Madam Mayor, move the city manager with power.
Second.
Harold?
Yes, I ask this every year, and I hope the firemen union is informed that, please, don't back up traffic on Market Street or Daniel Street. Very important. It's on a Saturday. A lot of traffic comes into Market Square. So.
And Your Honor, I think that, along with what Councilor Whitehouse said, I think that's the same weekend that Bow Street has its fair, so that there's a lot going on that particular weekend.
Okay.
All ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We're down to the city manager, and John has 4 items that require action.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first item that I have is a proposed lease renewal with the Portsmouth Housing Authority regarding the Greenleaf Recreation Center. As you're aware, in 1999, the federal government transferred ownership of the former U.S. Coast Guard maintenance building and 3.5 acres parcel on Greenleaf Avenue to the city of Portsmouth for use as a citywide recreation facility. As part of that, the PHA rents a small section of the facility, about 800 square feet, and it's time to renew the the lease that we have with them, which expires on June 30th. They've been an excellent tenant, and they were instrumental in helping us secure the federal monies early on with their housing Wamaset next door to it. So we would recommend that you authorize me to negotiate and take other actions necessary to execute a lease agreement between the city and the Portsmouth Housing Authority for the lease of the portion of the Greenleaf Recreation Center.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Move to suspend the 10:30 rule.
Second.
God bless poor old Bilky.
You might lose that one there.
Your Honor, the next item...
Didn't vote on it.
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item deals with a report back from Susan Dewhurst and Mark Nichols on behalf of United Way of the Greater Seacoast requesting permission to install signs at the entrances to the city. And in April, you referred this matter to the Planning Board. They have made multiple recommendations which essentially help to improve the grouping of signage. The Planning Board is in agreement that the markers be approved for the United Way of the Greater Seacoast, with one sign to be located in the right-of-way of each of the following streets: Market Street, Middle Road, Woodbury, and Maplewood Avenues. The Department of Public Works and Traffic and Safety Committee should approve the exact location of each sign, and that would be what I would recommend regarding the Planning Board's report back.
Do I have a motion?
Yep.
I, Harold Whitehouse?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Thank you,
Councilor
Your Honor.
Whitehouse.
That's all right, Your Honor. Move to approve the placement of markers by the United Way of the Greater Seacoast as recommended by the Planning Board.
Do I get a second?
That's not what the city manager just recommended. He recommended that
That's right.
it be approved by Public Works and Traffic and Safety, right? Replacement.
Which Assistant Mayor, if I might clarify, I apologize if I wasn't clear, that's part of the Planning Board's recommendation.
Okay.
Very good. We all ready for the vote?
We need a second.
Oh, I didn't get a
Second.
Yeah.
A question, how long will these be up? For how long?
That's a good question. I think we'll ask that. Probably what we'll do is, as part of the approval, we'll have a requirement that that if they get dog-eared, we'll have to have them replaced and talk to them about that.
Councilor Whitehouse?
I just hope that Woodbury and Maplewood, I hope it's not in the island, because it could be iron structure there. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
The Woodbury and
And
Maplewood.
that's something I think Traffic and Safety Committee could take a look at.
Okay.
Very good. We all ready for the vote? Oh, wait, have we voted?
No, you need to move the question.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's getting late and I'm pooped. Okay, let's move the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
The next item is a report back regarding a request from Mario Giubetti to purchase city-owned land located off of Barberry Lane, Assessor's Map 233/Lot 133, As you recall, in May, the City Council requested a report back on the request of Mario Gibetti to acquire city-owned property for inclusion with his lot for use as site of a new garage. The city took ownership of this parcel due to non-payment of taxes and to keep the land as open space. Mr. Gibetti's request is similar to one received in the summer of 2003. In that instance, a different petitioner sought to purchase the adjacent residential lot if the property could be acquired and added to a residential parcel. This request was subsequently denied by the City Council, and I've attached the report from the Planning Board. Relative to this request, the Planning Board has not found any facts that would merit a departure from their last recommendation. Therefore, the Planning Board recommends the denial of Mr. Gibetti's request to acquire this parcel and further that the parcel should be retained by the city as open space.
Motion?
I will make a motion that we do as the planning board recommends, but I would like to speak to that motion now that I've
Second. Do I get a second? Very good. Speak to it.
Mayor, I do recall, and I see David Holden hanging on like a barnacle out there. At a recent planning board meeting, it was raised by John Sullivan, and I'm aware too that there are a number of Caninos who are still living in the area. And I do not know or recall, I think it was indicated that someone was going to try and contact them. I don't know whether he died with a will or not. And if we are still within the 3-year limit, then I think that's appropriate. It doesn't mean that I don't think a proposal like this can be a good one, but in this instance, I think if there are time limits in place, we should let them run.
Did you want to say anything
No,
to that?
I'm recommending is we accept the Planning Board's recommendation.
Right, very good. Is everyone aware of, okay. All ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item deals with the proposed joint meeting between the City Council and the Planning Board regarding the master plan. After many tries, we've come on a date of Monday, July 19th at 6:45 to discuss the master plan. Prior to that, we would also include a 6:30 work session to deal with the request to rename Big Rock Park in honor of Louise Belmont. I'm recommending that the City Council have a work session on Monday, July 19th at 6:30 with regards to the aforementioned subject matters.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Your Honor, thank you very much. There's just some informational items I just want to bring to your attention. Next Monday night, when we have the final review of the budget, prior to that at 6 p.m., I'm recommending that, or at least inviting you to come to a tour of the Cottage Hospital. It will be before people move in. They're coming in July, so this would be your last opportunity. So I would encourage you, if you can get there, to take a look at the hard work that's been done. I think you can see from the exterior, and I would like to mention it was at no local taxpayer dollars.
Very good.
Sure
yes,
good.
Councilor Candelakis.
Just had a question on next Monday night's meeting. Is that going to be a full agenda, or is that just a vote on the budget?
Your Honor, if I might speak to that. Council Pantelakis, what I'll do tomorrow night is my intent is tomorrow to kind of sort through what transpired today and put together a draft agenda for you to look at subsequent to your review of the budgets. And what I'd like to do, because we do have 3 new council members, what I'd like to do is I'll have a draft agenda and I'll walk you through the various resolutions that need to be adopted so that you are aware of those. And then subsequent to your work session tomorrow night, then I will try to construct some kind of template for next Monday night for you to work on. It would be my intent to, number one, deal with the third and final reading of the parking meter issue. The second item that I would want to do prior to any adoptions of budgets would be to deal with the parking garage issue and deal with that revenue issue. That would be a motion. That would be a resolution that would deal with the appendix dealing with all of the fees and fines that Council Reynolds is chair of.
Very good. You all ready for the mayor?
Yep.
I've only got 2 appointments tonight, and they are to be voted on. The first one, they're the Historic District Commission, John Rice.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. The other one is HDC, and it's Ellen Feinberg.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And we're down to miscellaneous. Does anyone have any miscellaneous? You better not, Harold. Harold, yeah.
This is important, Your Honor. I think, may I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. John Marr mentioned an issue. I think it should be pursued. He talked about forming a committee and looking into the trustees, the makeup of the trustees, and a report back. So, Your Honor, I hope you expedite this and move this along immediately.
John and I have already talked about that. Okay. And just as soon as we have a public hearing on boards and commissions, I've got a lot of things I'd like to bring in and keep everybody up to date on as to what is going on. Okay? Is that it?
One more thing, Your Honor.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure that, I know we're late, so I just wanted to make sure the rest of the councilors knew and the public knows, if anybody's still watching, that we have scheduled the vendors committee meeting for this week. It's going to be on Wednesday here in City Hall, Conference Room A, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I just want to acknowledge and thank Kelly for her hard work in support of organizing that. Letters were sent out to the Downtown Business Association, all the vendors, phone calls were made, so that's Wednesday, 3 o'clock on the vendors, downtown vendors.
And I will try and be there too, Ned.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Well, that wasn't too bad.
Anybody have any problem with my vacation plans?
I didn't have any problem.
Okay.